Hello and welcome to Angel Cake Entertainment's YouTube channel. This is a 20K appreciation live. I want to say thank you to everybody who continues to watch my review and recaps, even though this season has been challenging, pun intended, to watch, but also to continue to watch everything that I put out, specifically challenge related. And I also want to say thank you to my guests and friends that have joined me tonight. We have Chris from Reality Pop and Chantel from Reality Realness with 3 S's, also Reality Pop. You can catch all three of us on Reality Pop on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to turn it over to you guys because my some of the people in the chat may not know who you are and what kind of savants of reality TV you are. So I'm going to turn over to Chantel. What is your history with reality TV, and what is some stuff that you talk about on Reality Realness, your channel?
Okay, I've been a lover of reality TV since like the beginning. I watched all the early seasons of The Real World and Road Rules. Like I remember my dad, he told me about Abram and how this crazy season of this guy on a RV, and he's like, you have to go watch it. Like this guy is like, he has a heart of gold, but like he's really troubled. And so he made me go watch it. And I was like obviously very captivated by this, like seeing these real people living their lives on an RV. So then I went back, and I think I went to the library and I rented the VHS tapes of like the old seasons of Real World and Road Rules. Okay. So like I'm blowing off the dust very much so. So that's kind of where the beginning for me was. I watched it all though. I did also go to a performing arts school. So Star Search was a TV show that I watched when I was a lot younger. I knew people that were on it. Friends of mine were in the Mickey Mouse Club. So like I kind of was in that kind of world from when I was younger. And I've even was almost going to audition for the Mickey Mouse Club, but I never ended up doing it in the end. So it's just like, I've always been a performer in the performing arts space, but really loving seeing people in their natural habitat reacting and acting with other people. So I think that's part of like me being an actor. I call myself kind of a social anthropologist, and I like seeing human beings behaving. So whether that's in like as an actor or as like I do tarot and hypnotherapy and all these other things where I get to communicate with people. I think it's just because I'm a lover of human behavior and people interacting. So you got to see where I started, and my savantness, well, like I watch everything still. So I was always a lover of this reality TV genre, in so much that when I'd moved to Montreal, my mom was taping for me Survivor and emailing me the VHS tape to my apartment in Montreal every week so that I could keep up with Survivor because I didn't have cable back then. So I've always just been really connected to it. And really liking being there from the beginning. So I liked knowing that I watched the very first episode Survivor, the very first episode of Big Brother. I like that. And so I do my homework, I watch it all, and there's pretty much not a show that I haven't watched at least a season of. So maybe you guys can stump me, or maybe you're going to point me in the direction of like a new television series that I haven't seen yet, but I've probably seen it all.
I was about to say, you're pretty like what you cover on your channel is vast. And I don't think there's another channel that talks about so many reality shows as you do. And you do it all live. Like you do it as the seasons are going on. You don't come out with a commentary like 3 months later when the show has already dumped all their episodes on like HBO Max or anything. Like I've had some troubles with some burnouts this past year, so I can only like give you a round of applause for how much you do on your channel on a weekly basis.
Well, I mean, for
Chris,
my channel. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, though, that like, what I liked about going live when I first started my channel, it was before 2020, and I was recording and then I doing like some mini edits and then posting it and not getting very many views. And I'm like, this extra step doesn't really matter for the type of show, like the recap show that I was doing. So I just really found that it was a lot easier just to like be able to do multiple shows, because you really only have to watch the episode, take notes, and then, do a live commentary about it. So I found it just saved me a lot of time. But I do plan on maybe bringing in some different versions of some of the shows that I cover, because right now, I'm doing Survivor live, I'm doing The Challenge live, I'm doing The Bachelorette live. But I think I want to do some, maybe like I'm watching Selling Sunset right now. I might do like an edited version of like the whole season. So I'm kind of toying with that. But right now it's like what's on TV, what's live, I'm probably covering it.
Very, very cool. Shout out to Serena, who commented, "Have you seen Worst Cooks in America? I'm on season 3." Congratulations. Wow. I did watch Johnny Bananas on that for like a couple episodes, and then I did not finish it. But
how was it?
Wow.
It's something I've thought about, but I prefer to see good cooks in America. So like, I am a fan of Top Chef. I've seen all of Top Chef's episodes. I love Chopped. Like when people are cooking well, I usually prefer.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's different. It's very different than, say, like Chopped or Hell's Kitchen or anything. Like when you're dealing with people that can actually cook and then dealing with people that are semi good cooks or playing it up for the camera, it's very, very different. Chris, what about you on reality pop?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I was born in South Africa, born and raised over there, and then sort of, thinking back in South Africa, the biggest reality show when I grew up, probably when I was around 9, was Survivor. So Survivor definitely got me into reality TV. I remember watching Richard Hatch win the first season as a kid, being absolutely flabbergasted by the fact that the bad guy won the show. And it got me hooked onto it, because why did the bad guy win? Like the good people should always be the ones at the end that wins. And then the season after that, Colby Donaldson famously lost to Tina. And Colby was like, back then for a young kid, you're looking up to this cowboy guy, macho, winning all the challenges. And again, my heart was broken there for the second time, because again, I felt like the guy I wanted to win didn't win. And then third season comes along, and finally somebody wins the show that I really like, which was Ethan Zahn. So I was hooked from that point onwards, and I'm very much a fan of all the big, you'd probably say the big 3 reality shows back then in South Africa was Survivor, Big Brother, The Amazing Race. Those were all the big ones that I was watching as a kid growing up. When it comes to The Challenge, I'm definitely a little bit more of a new school fan. I'm probably a fresh meat, you would say here. Started with Final Reckoning, which was the first season I ever watched of The Challenge. And a lot of that was due to some of the, I know a lot of people don't like the Big Brother contingent that have moved over to The Challenge world, but it did get me into The Challenge. I didn't know what The Challenge was before that, but I heard that Devon was on there. I heard that Josiah was going to be on that season, and then found out Paulie was going to be on there. So, and I continued to watch it, and I was intrigued by, why is CT such a big character? Because in Final Reckoning, I just didn't get the hype around Johnny Bananas. So I had to go back and watch from Fresh Meats to all the way through until now. I will say I'm probably going to get stumped more than you guys, because I've only seen each one of those seasons once. So my knowledge, I'm still sort of, I guess, learning, and I definitely see myself as a new fan to the Challenge fandom, and then finding out about road rules and, everything that sort of made the Challenge what it is today, and watching All Stars obviously with you guys. Massive fan of the Challenge now, with all of the other great reality shows that are out there at the moment. I think it's the best age for reality TV, because there is so much that we can watch and enjoy. On reality pop, I do cover Survivor, specifically the international one. So, if you've never watched Survivor South Africa or Australian Survivor, some of those seasons are now available on Paramount Plus as well. And they are really, really good seasons to get into if you are into Survivor seasons. And also with you guys, obviously do the Challenge Insiders, which I've got to say, it's my favorite time of the week when I get to talk to you guys about the Challenge, because you make me look good. And, Drew, I do want to say, congratulations on 20,000 subscribers. That's a massive achievement. Well done.
Yay! It's impressive.
Thank you.
It's impressive.
Thank you. I starting out this channel, I didn't think that this was possible, but I'm very blessed, especially like every single year. I just am thankful for how many people I talk to in the comment section, and how many people watch and comment back on the channel. And they don't comment like hateful things. They just comment about the season, which I'm very proud of, because it's like, I wanted to make this community here to talk about the Challenge and some of my favorite shows that I don't talk to with friends who don't watch reality TV, which is like all my friends, funny enough. And so it's just awesome. And I've been able to connect with people that do podcasts like us, and like Chris said, there's times where on Fridays, like I'm drained and exhausted by how many videos I do, but I know once 8 o'clock hits, it's almost kind of just like, oh, I know I'm doing a live, but it's just so much fun, and I get to just like sit back and just talk about the show that I've watched like an episode that I watched 3 times already, but it's still always fun. So yeah, I'm just really thankful and happy that we get to talk about it every Friday. So thank you for bringing me on, making me one of your own.
Aw.
And I feel very, very happy and blessed. There's a good amount of people here. We have Adrian, who we definitely see on Friday nights. So thank you for joining. I wanted to start things off with a slow ball here, and I made up a community post about topics, and we got a few of them. One comes from Lindsay saying, "What is your opinion on the official challenge podcast?" Parentheses, I know you mentioned you don't listen in a past video, and I'm curious why, or if you listen to other challenge podcasts. I've tried to listen. I'll be honest. I don't know. I'm going to turn it over to you guys, but I've tried to listen, but for some reason, I can't get past the Tori and Anissa talking. It seems way overproduced. And I mean, like, they really play it up. And I know you're supposed to do that to really get everybody hyped, but I can only handle Tori once in capacity, and it's on the challenge season. She's going far this season. So that's why I don't listen to it. I've definitely listened to a lot of the Challenge Mania podcast. Not recently, like ever since I started working from home, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts anymore. But I used to listen to a lot of Challenge Mania podcasts. I've heard that Bananas podcast is really good, but I have not listened to it yet. I know he has Darrell on there, so I'm very excited to hear what Darrell has to say. Chantel, what is your experience with the Challenge official podcast, and do you listen to other podcasts?
So I don't think that I've ever listened to the Challenge official podcast. And I think it's because what I like about actual podcasts is that we're getting people's raw, unedited takes on the episode. And I find that, oh yeah, maybe they're giving us a little nugget of like how people are thinking, but it's quite contrived in my opinion. And it's quite like, these are the points that the producers want you to hit to explain certain things about the show. So it's just not real enough for me. You know, I'm a reality TV junkie. I want real interactions, real relations. And I don't want to see people pretending like they're being real when they know that they're just doing what the producers want them to do. So it's just not my idea of how I want to gain content. And the duo of them is not my favorite pair of friends. I'm not a fan of Tori. I like Anissa more than I like Tori, but them together, not a big fan. So it's just not like the duo that I would want to watch. I love Devin. Devin has been doing the Aftermath. She's super fun. She's kind of made that show her own. I am quite surprised that she's not doing the same thing for All Stars this season. I'm wondering if it's because she's been moonlighting on the Wendy Williams show, and so maybe she doesn't have like the same kind of time. But regardless, like I just find her to be more real, and she actually asks questions that I care about the answers to. And so, yeah, I'm not really a big fan. Was there a second question?
If you listen to any of the other challenge podcasts, like Challenge Mania, or if there's another one that you like to listen to on the side that I didn't say.
Well, I did. Okay, so the one thing is that I started watching podcasts or video casts on YouTube on my TV. And so if it's doesn't come up as something like when I'm scrolling through on YouTube, I kind of forget about it. So I used to watch Rob as a podcast. I do podcasts for that channel, usually on a regular basis during the Big Brother season. And they do have a really great challenge podcast that I used to listen to all the time before pandemic days when like I'd be walking around and I would put on a podcast. So definitely the RHAP challenge podcast is something that I listen to. Bananas, I've listened to clips and stuff like that. And I haven't paid for Wes's like it takes on the episodes and stuff like that. I haven't really ventured down that realm, but I'm more so interested in the lives that go on. So any of the social media coverage, I kind of prefer to go there to see what the tea is because I don't know, I just find it's a little bit contrived. Okay, I'll stop talking. I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
It's hard to add to, I guess, what Chantal has said there, but for me, I agree. Like when you watch some of these official podcasts, these guys are thinking we're going back there next season, we're going to go play again. There's only certain things that they can and can't say, and would still be able to go out there and actually play the game and do well. For me personally, I used to watch a lot of the Challenge Mania podcasts. I do like the Mike Lewis podcast for some of the interviews with some of the older players and things like that. So shout out to Mike Lewis. He's got a good podcast as well. And I also do like Rob as a podcast, the MTV coverage that they've got on there for the challenge. I normally listen to those as well. But now, I guess more so this year with doing podcasts myself, I have found that I am listening to less podcasts because what I'm really afraid of as someone who's sort of stepped into the podcasting arena is just sounding like anybody else out there and mimicking the opinions of other people on podcasts. So I do want to come into these podcasts with some of my own opinions and raw thoughts. And you guys are no strangers to some of the very, hot takes or cold takes that I sometimes have on these podcasts because I don't look at what people are saying on Reddit. I don't look at what people are saying on social media or podcasts. I want to have my own opinion, and people might like it, people might not like it, but I think that makes for way better content than following other people out there. But I do have a respect for the others out there in the arena who are doing this work because it's sometimes, Drew, you'll know, and Chantal, you'll know, it takes a lot of work and a lot of preparation to watch these shows and to talk about it, but do have a lot of fun with it, basically, when I do it.
That's a good point. I mean, I try not to watch videos that I know I'm may do topics on or get too influenced. I normally would watch the episode 2 or 3 times and then I'll watch the aftermath at most. And then that's it. And that's about, I just want to get all the information I can to make the right decisions and talking points in the videos and on our Friday talk, because like Chris said, I don't want to, that's a good point. Cause I just don't want to like regurgitate something somebody else said and just keep on being like, oh, this player had a really good point. This one had, like, I just don't want to do that. So that's a really good point. So it sounds like we all aren't a fan of the official podcast. So
is
that's
it still on
one.
though? I don't even know where to find it. Is it on your YouTube channel? Like, I'm not even sure where it's hosted.
It's Spotify, iHeartRadio.
Oh, like it's actually it's not a video at all.
No. I don't think it's a video at all. I did listen to when Natalie Anderson was on, and then I think Fessy was on, and that was in Double Agents. Like, I haven't listened at all this season because I just wanted to get as much info as possible back then, especially with when Natalie Anderson was like DQ'd from that season, and it was kind of like a shocker of like, why did she leave? And then we all found out. But I wanted to hear from her because I thought they did a great job on that one, on that episode, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll like hang out and listen to it because they just let her talk and it was awesome. And then it's not like that for everything. So, yeah, so that's how they do it there. So there was, so I do want to talk, Jose has a comment and he talked about how he hasn't watched Survivor at all. And I thought, having 2 savants of Survivor, he was asking, what is a season to start out with if you were a beginner? Like, if you could give a person who has never seen Survivor one season to watch that kind of gives it a good encapsulation of what the game is, and it's like striking and may hook a new player or a new viewer into it, what season would you tell them to go watch on Paramount Plus or wherever they can find it? Chris, do you have a season in the forefront?
I'd like to split it into 3 different sort of categories. So if we looked at what's current Survivor, because Survivor is one of those shows that I think evolves more as a show than any other reality TV show out there. It's almost a different game now compared to what the first 10 seasons were, or the first 20 seasons to what it is now. So if we could look at I guess if it's a first season, I am very biased. I would always go back to Kagayan, which is my favorite season, which I just think has got such a great cast. cast. The problem with that season when somebody new watches is they might think that the way that Tony plays the game there is something that other people can emulate, which is definitely not the case. But it's just got such a fun cast in the season. And then I'd say that's a good one to start off on, and it will definitely get people hooked. I'm not surprised that Netflix had Kage-yan as one of its first Survivor seasons on it as well, to get fans hooked into Survivor. And it has brought a lot of new Survivor fans to the show. So I really like Kage-yan. I would probably say for the current version of the show and where things are going right now, I'm a big fan of David versus Goliath. I think that's a great season for New School Survivor. Again, very strong cast. I think we're going to get a lot of returning players from that season, especially now with the additional diversity that we're looking for in returning seasons and things like that. I thought it had a very diverse cast and some great players that, you know, still can come back, like David Rickenback. I'm a big fan of The Godfather that season. I'd love to see him come back. And there's a couple of really other great players from that season. And then if we had to look at maybe something that's a bit more old school to get people into the show, I think that for me, I'm a big fan of Africa. Personally, I just love Africa. I know a lot of people are very 50-50 on it. I think maybe it's because I'm from South Africa originally, but it can show you how tough it can be out there to survive in the wilderness, because it's probably one of the toughest seasons that Survivor has ever had in regards to being out there and people having to stay awake and keep the campfire going so the wildlife can't get in. It would be a slow season, but if you wanted to see what early Survivor was like and when alliances was very new and different people sort of what a 4-person or a 3-person alliance can do. And that season, there's a very good alliance that sort of carries through the season all the way to the end. And then you get a pretty good winner at the end. I would say those are probably the 3 seasons, but I would start at Kage-yan. Then I would say maybe David versus Goliath. And if you wanted to watch an old one, Africa, those are kind of my choices.
Okay, it's hard for me to fully say because I watched them in real time, a lot of these seasons, and I haven't done a rewatch on all of them. So I've rewatched definitely, Borneo, the first season. I've rewatched that recently. I've seen Africa recently. Micronesia, I've rewatched recently. Actually, I think Micronesia would be a very good one to watch. I think that there's a lot of great characters that come out of that season. A lot of, favorites are on that season, and some epic moments do come out of Micronesia, that effing stick. So I think that could be a fun one to watch just because there's just a lot. It was a very enjoyable season, I would say. I'm always going to be a fan of old school Survivor just because it was when I was most impressionable and when I was just learning about alliances and how the game works and realizing that there's these new era of game shows where you, the human being, gets to put yourself in these situations to win a lot of money. It was just I love The Price is Right. So this is the new world's The Price is Right. I thought it was amazing. So I'm going to go back old school. I loved the original, what's it called? When everybody comes back, the favorites.
Francis's favorites or?
No, before that.
All-Star,
season 7, All Stars.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that original All Stars, but it was because I just had watched all these players in the first 6 seasons, and I was getting to know them. I had certain people that I really liked, and then this was the first time we're getting to see our favorites on a reality show ever come back and play again. So I loved that season because I had all these bonds with a lot of those players. So that one, and then maybe something from New School. I feel I don't know if it'll translate as well New School wise, but I loved Winners at War. It really had everything in a season, and it could be because I was a super fan of all the old school players, but that had a lot of love and appreciation for some of the new school players, and then it's old school playing a new school game, and I thought it was very fascinating. And I think that all of the people on that season are big enough characters that would be able to carry it, even if people don't have the emotional connection like I do to all these players. So I think for a new school season, I think that would be a really good one to watch as well. And just for reference point, Rob as a podcast just did 40 season countdown of he had all of his patrons and people that watch his channel fill out their order of rankings of all the seasons before went to Survivor 41, and I talked on a couple of seasons, and if you want something to watch alongside, you can definitely watch a season, and then you can go and listen to one of his season-long breakdowns. They were really fun to do, and a lot of work went into that. It was like 8 months of work.
Yeah.
I was
Also,
about
just
to
want to
say.
give a I just want to give a shout out also to Heroes versus Villains, which is probably my favorite season
It's
of all
also very
time.
good. It's very
But
good.
it's very tough to recommend that season. I know they had it. I think it was one of the 2 seasons on Netflix. It's tough to recommend those
Yeah.
returning seasons to new people when they're getting into the show because they just don't have that same point of reference. We get to see Tom back out there play the game again. Nobody thought Tom would go out and play in Heroes versus Villains, or Stephanie is back, or James Clement is back. Like you just don't have that reference for the characters in the season. And for me, it was very epic when Heroes versus Villains played because I knew who these players were. I kind of think it's probably similar to how people are feeling about the Challenge All-Stars right now when you're getting people coming back. I don't have that point of reference because I haven't seen some of the earlier seasons. So I'm having to learn and get to know them this season, which I'm really enjoying. But I can imagine it just means so much more for the people that have watched the show before, seeing these players come back that they never expected to come back and play.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Kagayan is a really good one. I just rewatched that one during quarantine, and that's very much fast paced. When you go backwards after Kagayan, it really slows down. But
It's tough, yeah.
I think Kagayan is like the farthest you want to go back, and then everything else has just been sped up. The only thing about season 40 is I just really, going back and thinking about that season, I really wish they would have just played a more chill Survivor game instead of so many tokens and stuff. It just felt like they were pushing what was going to be the future of the franchise, and then they quickly went away from that when they were like, even these all-stars can't really figure it out, so let's just not do it for the newer cast. We have a question from go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I heard that Jeff was upset that the All-Stars, like season 40 cast, they didn't like all these twists, and he was shocked that they didn't like the Redemption Island and all this stuff. They thought that they would be super excited and jumping up and down, but half the seasons were purists. And like, I'm a purist. I don't like all these trinkets and doodads, but I did appreciate the trying to blend the two worlds with Winners at War.
I don't know how much we want to spoil or not spoil. I'm trying to keep very much away from who wins what. But, the biggest player probably in Survivor, the person that you would think would be the poster child for Jeff Probst after season 40, is not a supporter of it, and went onto podcasts to talk about the fact that they don't support it at all and that they were very against the whole twist. So I think that Jeff was probably happy in some ways that there wasn't a proper reunion show because that person didn't really get too much time to talk about it in front of all the casuals.
Yeah. We had such a big momentum change here with so many winners, and you just want to see everyone that was crossing over and was really big in this game, and you just want to see them play the game. But it seemed like a lot of players were just trying to find their footing, and then having to think of do I want to buy a blanket? Do I want to buy a tarp? Am I buying a jar of peanut butter? What's going on here? So it's just too much. We have a question from Adrian who asks, Chantel, since you're a Real World fan, are you currently watching the Homecoming seasons right now? I think on Thanksgiving, they dropped the season 2 of Las Vegas, the new one. Are you
LA? It's Los Angeles. Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I haven't yet. So I wasn't sure if I should go back and watch the original seasons because I literally watched it in 95 or 94. It was just a long time ago. So I'm like, do I want to just watch the new season without this reminding myself of what I thought about these characters and who they are? But then I'm thinking they might do a lot of flashbacks. So no, I have not watched either of the 2 Homecoming seasons that are out yet, but it's on my list to do a binge one of these weekends coming. I'm just trying to figure out either whether I can find their original seasons. Is that on Paramount Plus as well, or no?
What is
the original Real World New York and Los Angeles?
I know the Homecoming seasons are on there. I know I checked one time for the Real World seasons because I was like, oh, they got Real World on here, and that'll help with documentaries and everything that I'm going to be doing for a lot of the players, and they have a whole bunch missing. You can't get CT's Real World Paris, which
I thought Paris was on there. Oh wow. Okay.
I didn't see Paris. The second Las Vegas is definitely not on there because when I did Leroy's documentary, everybody was asking me where I got all the clips for Leroy's Real World season, and it was a really good season. I watched that. That was my first Real World season experience, and I was like, this is awesome. This is great. Adam needed to be kicked off way sooner, but he's definitely He definitely was doing some good. David, no need to apologize. You're right on time. So speaking of Leroy, a lot of comments I've gotten on some of my past week's videos. I don't know if you guys have seen it or checked it out, but Leroy posted a video on his Instagram talking about the Camilla situation that happened in Dirty 30, episode 9. Do you both remember that?
I actually posted the video on my channel, and so I've definitely been involved in this conversation just because there's like hundreds and hundreds of people commenting on the video that I posted. So I watched it on his channel, and then I dragged it over to mine. And but it's been the topic of a lot of conversations, and I definitely remember that Camilla incident, and remember feeling terribly for Leroy and understanding where Leroy was coming from, because in that moment, you don't really want to bite the hand that feeds you. And as a person of color, you never want to pull the race card. And there's a lot of things also going on with like why you wouldn't have said anything at the time and would just be accepting apologies, even though you didn't feel like justice was served. So I totally felt for him, especially I think that the trigger for him to speak out and speak up was because of the action that was taken with Ashley and Josh over a situation. We didn't get to see anything that happened. And I can't imagine that Ashley said anything that was as heinous as what I found Milla's treatment of Leroy was. And so I think that that's why he decided to speak up at this time, because he was like, whoa, like you guys didn't value me at all, but like you're valuing this person like way more than you did for my experience, and like mine was actually very traumatic, and you still awarded Camilla with $450,000. So yes, I've watched it.
I haven't seen it, but I do remember that scene vaguely, because obviously, like I said, I had to watch so many seasons in one hit when I did, but I was never a fan of Camilla that much myself. And I know that for some other reason, the producers, they love people who bring the drama, and that they think that that leads to more and more people watching the show. I think it's probably why Josh in previous seasons have been popular, even if it's been fake drama that he sometimes created and it didn't seem authentic. And it's sad to hear that this was going on behind the scenes, and that, you know, he didn't feel validated as someone that I think did 7 or 8 seasons up to that point. So very, very sad. And obviously Leroy is one of my favorites to be on the challenge. So he's moved on to bigger and better things since then. And it's a shame, because what does this mean for All-Stars? I think we all spoke about that potentially. You know, we'd love to see Leroy on an All-Star sometimes in the future. He's retired from proper challenge. Do you guys think that this sort of muddies the water for him in regards to coming back and being an All-Star? Or do you think it potentially opens it up, because he's a part of the discussion, and we're having wider conversations about the things that happened earlier on the challenge?
Well, it's MTV adjacent, right? So maybe there is an opportunity for him to be able to step over there, because it's not actual MTV. It's Paramount Plus. So I'd say maybe, but I don't think so right now. I think that maybe in 2 years he could be like, okay, it's time for me I can come back and pick up a nice paycheck. But I don't know if he'll do it within the next year, maybe 2.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Leroy is in a place to want to come back, especially looking back and reliving it. I watched the video. It is very powerful. I urge everyone to go watch the video. He breaks it down step by step in the video, and he watches, and major like props to him and much respect for him and much love for Leroy for putting himself back into that mindset and going back to that point and really letting us know his feelings and his thoughts as the clip was going. And I'm frustrated. I remember making the documentary on Leroy and getting to that point, and then going back and reading through all of his interviews that he was talking about, and how it was so much worse. Everything was so much worse than what was shown on the show and even on Paramount Plus. And I just remember just being so frustrated with everything that happened, and knowing how the season ends, and also thinking back that Camilla has shown so much problematic behavior before that season even came about, before season 30 even came about. She was doing so much stuff in the past seasons, and everybody was just like, yeah, that's
Camillinator.
yeah, Yeah, give her a funny nickname and just, hey, it's good TV. We're gonna let it go. And it's like, I don't think so. Like maybe this was a huge red flag to the point where she harms a producer in the season right after that, and she gets drunk, and I think she ran over a producer with a golf cart on Champs versus Stars or something to that effect. But I'm so happy that Leroy spoke out. I did watch Cam's live after that as well. And she talked about how she wants MTV to step up and not only be accountable for themselves and who they cast, but also the cast themselves to be held accountable. And so she was urging that if you have a problematic past, that you should not be back on the challenge. Like you should just, there's so many other TV shows out there that they're pulling from. There's so many other players that are willing and excited to come onto the show. Let's give other people a chance than the players that were have shown problematic behaviors. Now, on All Stars, we know that we saw Trishelle talk from her past in Rivals 2 with Anissa. She was brought back on All Stars 1, and we saw that moment happen. Do you both agree with Cam that if you have shown problematic behaviors, should you be given the cut right away? Or what? I believe that Jordan has shown problematic behaviors in his past and definitely on his real world season. Yet he's pretty much gotten like some slaps on the wrists. He's been able to come onto the show. They've had like droughts where he hasn't been on, and then he'll come back on from a while later. I mean, what do you think the proper protocol should be?
It's so tough because like with a lot of these things, like I feel like context is important. Like what was the exact thing that they did? There needs to be a way where you can look and say, let's look at this at a tier level. This is a tier 1 problematic behavior. This is a tier 2. This is a tier 3. And then sort of classify it according to that, in my opinion. I'm a believer that you shouldn't hold someone like if they've shown growth. I hate it when people bring back what happened 10 years ago if someone has changed, because I know I'm not the same person that I was when I was 18, or 20 compared to what I am now. And I do think people do grow and they get better. And I feel like they should be given a chance. But then on the hindsight of that is that you're giving these people a platform to come on and, if they get a second opportunity, does that mean that other people will feel emboldened to do something today because they might think, even if I do get slapped on the wrist right now, 10 years from now, if I do change my behavior, I can come back and be on a show. So I guess if you look at it in life, I think we should forgive people if they show that they've grown and they've moved on and that they're not the same person they were 10 years ago, and that, I would hope no one remains the same for worse or better. They'll change and they'll grow as we experience life, but when you go onto a show like this, it's so tough because you're getting a platform to, for instance, let's look at Camilla. Let's say she changes a lot and she comes back in 10 years from now or something like that. People will look back at how bad it was and they would think, oh, well, I can get away with a lot on these types of shows because if I do show a behavior that I'm going to change, I might get a second opportunity. I don't know if all of that makes sense. It's a very difficult one to sort of judge. I think that if it's a public platform, a great point by Cam there. America's got over 300 million people. We've now started going into other countries and we're getting great talent from other countries to come into the challenge. This season, there's been a few people that's been brought in and in previous seasons. Why should we go back to someone that has already shown that they probably shouldn't be on this platform? So I don't know if that's me sitting in the middle or not. I just think it's a very difficult one I think we have to separate life to the reality TV shows. I think in life you should be able to forgive people if they've shown growth and they've moved on, but do they get the second opportunity to be on a show such as this, to make money and to get exposure at this level? I'm kind of a little bit more against that, if that makes sense.
Well, I kind of think that because they weren't reprimanded in the past, that I think that like if they were sent home, then maybe I can just tear them and be like, okay, like you shouldn't be able to come back or whatnot. But if nothing was said or done about a certain situation, I just don't think we can go back and be like, no, you can't be on the show now because we decided to judge your past actions that we didn't judge before. So I think like even though like I can understand like people have done shitty things that they should have been reprimanded for and they shouldn't be coming back on the show, but I don't know if they weren't told that what they were doing was bad, like if they
Mm.
should be still, you know, held accountable for something later. Now, it doesn't mean though that like I think that every shitty person should get a second chance, but I don't know if it should be just like a hard fast rule that like, oh, you were shitty once and we never told you about it, that you can never come on the show again if they don't know that those are the consequences for their actions from back then. I feel like they need to know all the rules that they were playing with beforehand if they're going to have that kind of you know, reprimanding.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it, like we as a society have changed in the last 10 or 15 years, and things that were probably appropriate 10 or 15 years ago aren't,
Exactly.
it's not seen as appropriate right now. So you could find some of your favorite people right now that you love from reality TV, and you could dig up some stuff on them for what they did in the 2000s, guaranteed, because of back then they wouldn't have known 10 or 15 years down the line it would be problematic. I think when I'm looking at what Camilla did specifically, I think that was problematic, should have been problematic in my mind. I mean,
Yes,
I wouldn't have done that even in the 2000s. You know
of
what I
course.
mean? Like, so for me, that's a different. So I agree with you, Chantel. There's got to be different levels. Get context behind what it is that they've done, because not all problematic behavior is exactly the same and can be looked at in that same lens.
Well, I remember when watching The Duel 2 and just recently, I mean, with DM's video, I mean, that whole episode 1, I had to go outside sourcing for it since it's not on Paramount Plus. But episode 1 has CT's fight with Adam, which at that reunion, I remember somebody, I can't remember who exactly said it, but she said that CT shouldn't be on the challenge anymore. Like, he should be banned. Like, after that fight, he should be banned. Now, it did come out that his brother had passed away. DM during the offseason broke up with him. So he was going through a very terminal point in his life where it was very dark. And so I think he took a few seasons off. They told him he couldn't come back. And then now we're getting a CT 19 seasons in, and he is like the only OG that's left on the show. He's a fan favorite. I mean, what do you think about that? About CT's turnaround? I mean, that's a completely different situation though, because it is like there is some backstory to it. It is fighting. I mean, it wasn't like anything like the Camilla situation or anything that was going on in Dirty 30, and it wasn't recent. That was Duel 2, and it was a fight. And going back to it, I mean, CT was drunk and got into Adam's face, but Adam threw the water into CT's face first, I will say. And then CT asked if he could take a punch, and then legit just threw his fist through his face, trying to see if it could come out the other side. Like, it was nuts. But did you watch that when it was unfolding? And what was your experiences? Did you think that CT should have just been automatically banned from that season? Or banned forever?
It's hard for me to say because back then, like, this was what was allowed. Like, not that, like, it was, he was cast as this guy with the chip on his shoulder that was ready to go to blows. And so it's hard to say whether I think that he should have been asked back when that's the role that he was put in to be on the show. So he was on The Real World Paris because he was that Boston kid that was rough around the edges, that had a chip on his shoulder, that loved to get into fights. And he carried that in because, you know, he wants to get called back. So he's playing that role that he was hired for. So I think that it's a really thin line to be able to decide that, like, okay, well, we want you to do this, but you went a little bit too far here, so you're not going to come back on the show anymore, even though this is why we hired you. So I think that we have to maybe put some onus on MTV for encouraging an environment where that could be possible. How did they allow him to get to blows with a guy and be able to get into that sort of altercation unless they wanted to have this type of drama? And so I think we have to hold MTV a little bit more accountable for allowing this to be a platform where these fights can escalate to the point where it was a brutal physical altercation. Not to say that he shouldn't be reprimanded and shouldn't be like, hey, like that was a little bit too far. And he, you know, Adam should be able to, you know, maybe even charge him with, you know, whatever lawsuit or whatever. But he probably couldn't because of the fact that it was under the umbrella of MTV and creating a show. So I think MTV needs to take a little bit of onus here for creating an environment where this was allowed instead of reprimanding the person that was just playing their role on their show.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when you look at it this way, I mean, if you look at sport, for instance, you get players that get in fights all the time. And I'm not all across all the American sports as much. I know that you get ice hockey, which can be pretty brutal at times. You get, rugby, which I watch quite a lot, rugby union, where there are fights that break out. Players get suspended for X amount of games, X amount of months. I think that's appropriate for fights. I don't think the fight itself would have been you're banned from the challenge indefinitely, but I do think having him stand down, especially when he wasn't in a good mental space at that time, probably was the right move. But I think he's done his punishment, and as one of the commenters said there, CT has shown a lot of growth, and I think that's why he is a fan favorite for a lot of people. I know even for myself, I've seen that growth period from even when I watched the show from Fresh Meats 2 through till now, the things that he's gone through during that time, and he is not, like, you see glimpses of the old CT sometimes come out, but as a whole, he's now Uncle CT. So, what's there not to like about him? And I'm glad that he wasn't banned indefinitely, because we would have been robbed from watching him in all of these seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the chat is bringing up Darrell's fight with Brad in the Ruins, and that didn't get as much exposure, even though Brad was an idiot for, first of all, provoking the boxer, the Golden Glove, I think college, whatever he was part of, but he was provoking the only guy that was gonna legit stand the test of times of beating the crap out of his face. But he didn't get anything from that. He wasn't like, I don't think anybody was worried that Darrell was ever going to get banned, because he was like, he was provoked. Brad was very drunk, but I mean, that was just nuts.
When did TJ start stepping in and saying like fighting wasn't allowed and putting her hand on? Like there was a time where it was allowed, and then there was a time when it was not allowed anymore. Do you remember which season where things changed?
I remember the Nelly T and Derek one where he stepped in and made a decision to actually remove Nelly from the game in that season. I don't know when it happened before that.
That's late. That's in the 30s, I think.
That is 30. That's 30 that it happened. I don't know, because even in season 29, when Nelson and Corey were going after each other after Nelson won the three-way elimination, the three-way elimination, he won the first round and Corey thought he snaked him.
When he was a snake? That was like the one time they've used snake in the right context. Like, it's when Nelson snaked you, Corey. He screwed you over there. Anyway, sorry.
No, I just remember them getting into each other's faces, but TJ never like stepped in and was like, "Hey guys, if you do that one more time, I'm gonna send both of you home." So I almost think it is when it
the first time.
Maybe 30 was the turning point, because what you were saying, I mean, there was a point where you could always wrestle. I mean, back in the day, like the guys were wrestling in the front yard at certain points. Like you could do that, but nowadays, that's not even close. Like, you can't even put hands on anybody. If you push somebody into a couch like Josh was, that forcible push in Double Agents, TJ's going to get talking.
That should have been a no-go. I think that he got away with, like, putting hands on Devin there. Like, I don't think that he should have been. From the rules that have now been in place, I think that was a no-go item, to be fair. But,
and then if you're someone like Turbo, your words can get you kicked off, and just your intent of wanting to go to someone, you can get kicked off the show. He didn't actually lay hands on to Jordan, but we haven't seen him come back at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want Turbo back, but I watch his Instagram.
But it basically is saying like Josh would never survive this era of the challenge, and it's basically all the fights that we're talking about.
Oh heck no! It's really funny because I was gonna do a foreshadowing video of like players saying something at one point in a season or an earlier season, and then it coming to fruition in another season, and it happened on, I think, in the Inferno, when Leah and not Melinda, Kendall were doing the brick by brick elimination, and CT was like yelling at Leah, but Leah and Darrell were like, hanging out and kind of like making out during that that season. And when she got eliminated, she was like, "Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you stick up?" And Darrell was like, if I get to some guy's face, I'm gonna punch the life out of him." And then we go all the way to the ruins when Brad is in his face and he just like lets him have it. I was like, "Yo." I'm not gonna lie.
So
I was
mad at
really
Darrell.
pissed.
I was like, "Fuck, you were gonna win this one. I wanted to see you win this like season, Darrell." Ah.
I was mad at
What did you
Brad,
guys
too.
Well, I mean,
Like,
of course,
was
I'm mad
so
at
mad at
Brad.
Brad.
We're always mad at Brad, but
He was on a
like,
sinking ship. He was drinking, and he was like, "I don't care. My season's ruined. I'm gonna go into the elimination over." He was the only guy left on his team. I think it was him. It was either him or him and Dunbar or something like that. And he was just like, "I don't care. Like, let's just go." And it was a nightmare. Like, it was a nightmare, like absolute nightmare.
So, what did you guys think of Darrell coming onto the aftermath this season and giving a little bit of smoke towards Emmy, saying that Michaela is a better competitor than Emmy, or kind of insinuating it there on the aftermath, which I thought was pretty funny to see. I'm assuming that he's got some sort of a relationship with Michaela outside, or they've connected outside of the show, or you just had her back in there. But it was really funny to see everybody blow smoke up Emmy's butt in that aftermath show, and then Darrell not being that impressed. You know, it's a big one when one of the real OGs, one of the goats, come in there and say that to you.
I mean,
real quick. This was actually a topic that I was going to get to. It was suggested by Kip and Klaus, asking about what did we think about Darrell talking about Michaela could whoop up on Emmy if they were in a one-on-one elimination. And this plays perfectly into what happened this past episode with Emmy winning her 4th elimination and everybody having a confessional saying like, "I love Emmy. Emmy is the #1 rookie of the season," or something like that. She's clearly hands down the rookie of the season. And everybody's been talking highly about her in the aftermath. So Chantel, I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw that out there. What do you think about all this?
I wasn't sure why he was bothering like bringing this drama with this 23-year-old person that's not even from the challenge franchise world. I think that he's sticking up for Michaela because Michaela probably got a lot of flack for how she went out. It was pretty much at the hands of Emmy being a little bit sneaky and like, you know, giving some information that wasn't fully true. Like whatever. She was stirring the pot and causing some trouble. So the fact that she's being rewarded now by all these other players because like she's basically been doing their dirty work. They're pretty much pretending like she hasn't been and be like, no, Emmy, we love you. You're amazing. You're the rookie of the year. But really, can you just take out all the people that we don't want to go against in a final or go against in the lair? And they're just like trying to make her actually think that they really love and appreciate her. I'm sure they like her to a certain extent now, but I think that they're just blowing smoke up her butt. So I think that Darrell's just like, I see you, Emmy. Like, I'm not gonna be as fake as the Emerald team that like really thinks that you are the best rookie of the year. I think that Michaela could take you. I think it was just to like razzle her a bit.
I'm a big Emmy fan for what she's done. I guess when it comes to the arena and the fact that she's won all of these, eliminations down there in the arena, I think we should respect that and say, yes, she probably is the rookie of the year. She's earned that title this specific season. But I do think she kind of spoke to that a little bit in this last episode where she said she's the weapon at the moment, that the veterans, they've been using her as a weapon this season. And I don't see the strategic foresight in her. She's never going to be a mastermind of a season. Even if she comes back next season, she's going to be someone's weapon. It could be CT's, it could be another veteran she's formed a relationship with this season. But I like the fact that Darrell brought it up. I like the fact that he brought Michaela's name back because I want to see Michaela come back. I felt like she was done dirty this season and we just didn't get to see much of her. And we know she's got a great athletic background herself as well. So I don't know how it would actually go because Michaela's unproven in the challenge world. Emmy now does have the experience, and I always talk about experience going down in the arena being important because you need to know what it feels like to go head to head with someone. So I don't know what that would be like, but Darrell going on there and bringing Michaela's name up and keeping it relevant, I'm all for that. You know, I think that's brilliant.
And Michaela also has been hanging out with Gisela. So, like, she's still in the conversation of the MTV world. And so hopefully that bodes well for her just to be showing up in Hisella's lives at like 2 a.m. on a Saturday night, like regardless of what they're doing, I think it does keep her in the conversation as somebody that they're going to want to bring back for another season. So I could see Michaela being relevant enough that she will be coming back. And I would love to see it. I would like to see Michaela coming back more than Emmy, because like that last commenter said, that she is the vet's pet. Michaela is somebody that would be a fierce competitor in the lair, but then she also is capable of strategy. And I want to see somebody that is capable of strategy and not just a follower. So yeah, I'm team Michaela over team Emmy for sure.
And you know what's the most frustrating thing is that this season, at least when it first started out, it's very much a solo season, except for when we had when you're doing the dailies, because the dailies was you're playing in pairs, but when it came down to the eliminations, yeah, you were voted in as a pair, but not necessarily, because if you won, you could swap partners and everything. So I felt like I wish they would have done it at the beginning of this season, like they are doing in All Stars 2, where it would have been solo. Like if they would have just had solo individual eliminations right off the bat, I felt like Michaela would have had a much better shot when she was, instead of her going up against basically Corey L by herself. It was just not going to happen.
We would have saved Kells that way too. He wouldn't be partnered with Tracy for that elimination. So yeah, a lot of people got dirty with the style of those eliminations in the beginning half of the season.
I do have a question for you guys. Since we're on the topic here of one of the newer players, and Michaela being from Survivor, is there other players that you guys, and I don't know if this is a question that was asked, Drew, because it seems like I'm going down probably the same thought pattern that some of your viewers may be going down. Is there any other Survivor players, Big Brother players that you guys would like to see come and into the show? I know that the current crop of Big Brother players haven't been the ones that we necessarily wanted to see on the show, but are there others? And I think for me, I've got, one person that comes up that I'd love to see from Big Brother that I've always thought would make a really good jump over to the show is Brett Robinson. I think it was Big Brother 20, the guy who did the analyze joke when he was in there. I really enjoyed his humor. I enjoyed him as a big character. I think he's physically fit. I think he could do pretty well if he did make a jump over. And then for Survivor, I wouldn't mind seeing someone like a Malcolm or a Wendell. I was very excited when Wendell was announced to potentially be on this season, and then he didn't end up coming onto the season. And I would love to see Wendell and Michelle Fitzgerald on the same season. Yeah, Xander's a good choice as well.
Brett was on the same season as Casey. Like, come on. Like, they're just going to link up the Brett and
get rid of some of the others.
Fessy. Like, they'd be like, let's be in together, level 6. Yeah. I mean, I think what I would be interested in seeing if we went to the All Stars, and so if they're having trouble pulling for people from old Road Rules, old Real World, old Fresh Meat, I was thinking it would be an interesting show to bring any older Survivor and Big Brother players that may have wanted to come and play, and they played on like a Fresh Meat, but an All-Stars Fresh Meat. So they were going to be all 35 to like 45 years of age. So that means my girl Janelle might be invited to play, maybe Kaser invited to play, Dr. Will maybe get that invite, even like Derek and Dan might get that invite because they're all would be in that older bracket and have watched the show like as it was growing, like at the same time as these players were growing up. So I think that would be really interesting. Even having, I know you don't like Bus and Rob, but I still do. Poverty.
I don't mind them.
Even
it's
Amber.
Not on Survivor. We've seen them enough on Survivor 5 times, isn't it? 5 times in Survivor already. Let's get other people a chance. Unless there's a legend season, then obviously bring them back.
So yeah, I think that any of the old school fan favorites of Survivor and Big Brother would be interesting to see them perform on the Challenge All Stars as kind of like a fresh old meat season.
I just quickly want to acknowledge Dolores, who's always in our live streams as well for the Challenge Insiders and also for Survivor Worldwide on Reality Pop. So she does watch the international shows. She brought up George's name a few times here for Australian Survivor, which I know you guys won't know who he is. He would be a really funny character as a politician to go out there and do the show. I don't think physically he would do well at all, but he would be funny to watch. If we did go down the international route, for me, Luke Toki, is someone I would love to see make the jump over. He's the people's champion in Australia for a reason. Very big, larger than life character. Think Tony Vlachos for Australia. He's that type of character, but I was going to say more physically capable than Tony, but Tony did do really well in his Winners at War season and the immunity wins. And then if we had to go for South Africa, we just had a very good challenge person this season in Chappies, who I know, Chantal, you'll know who he is. I think he could be a very fun character to see on the show as well. I don't know how people would sort of navigate around them, but the challenge has gotten good at getting all these international people into the show. You know, look at Emmanuel telling us how they prepare the meat with spanking it beforehand and things like that. So I'm sure they could add a lot of value to the show as well.
Yeah, and shout out to Justin Pascal, who is in the chat as well, watching right now. He asked this exact question on who we would like to see as rookies on the challenge. I really like the idea of like a Paramount All-Stars, and you're bringing in like the challenge, Survivor, Big Brother. Maybe they could play on teams, like a team of 3, like we're seeing now, but like better done, like not how it is being done. But I think it would be really fun and exciting to see, kind of like a challenge All-Stars type of format, but with 3 teams, and it's like the big 3 of the Paramount, CBS, Viacom arena type of thing, and do it in like 3 weeks, 2 weeks filming, and I think anybody would sign up on it. So I think that would be really, really
just
fun
give Boston Rob like 6 months to prepare, get in shape, not eat his wife's pasta all the time, and he'll be good to go. Because we want the Boston. I mean, Boston Rob did pretty well in Winners at War, regardless. But give him a little bit of time to train before he does something like the challenge, where everything is based on winning eliminations and winning dailies.
But Boston Rob is quite smart, and he would not want to lose a legacy like by coming across as being old and incapable of competing in the challenge. So if he was choosing to come on the show, I think he would do his physical homework and getting his body into shape, because he would want to win, like undoubtedly.
Yeah, and one person that a lot of people were saying, Haley. I would like to see Haley from Big Brother 20. The only thing is that I worry, because it gives more story.
But
yeah, it gives him more storylines and more. Why not bring him on the season if she's on there? Because of course people want to see how they would figure it out and how they would work together.
Especially if he's with Amanda, though. If he's with Amanda and there's no other Big Brother people, and we're doing an X's season or something, like that would be, I could get into seeing what happens in that trio. But I can't have him have power and then also have an ex and have a partner. Like, no.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's not a good one. I'm pretty good with not adding more Big Brother players, especially Big Brother
recent.
yeah. Definitely not after this most recent season. I would like to see like Xavier. I think he was a really smart player. He's very strong. He's very like good with politics and stuff. So I think he would be an instant like able to just like chameleonize within the challenge atmosphere. But
shout out to Anthony from Big Brother Canada. I reckon he was in talks of being in one of the seasons as well, and I think he could do extremely well as well. And again, it's not the same, it's not the US Big Brother show, so you're going somewhere international, which I don't think, have we had an international Big Brother? Well, we did. We had the 2 girls from Nigeria.
And Asaf.
And Asaf, yep.
But it is interesting that you bring it up, that Big Brother Canada is getting more popular as more seasons come out. A lot of the audience who are devout Big Brother fans now, I think, kind of lean towards liking Big Brother Canada than the US Big Brother yet. And it's on the topmost region of the US, where the challenge and Viacom and Paramount really hold all the cards and everything. But we haven't like sent over some invites to them very recently. Like, what is your thoughts on that? Because I've watched recently Big Brother Canada for the first time this past summer, and I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the gameplay. I liked the twists. I thought it was just like really well done, and all the players were very smart and very cunning. There wasn't like somebody that just wanted to like be there for vacation. And I was like, why haven't we picked anybody from Big Brother Canada yet? What is your thought about that?
Well, as your resident Canadian, shout out to Arissa Cox. I went to middle school and high school with her, so I've known her since I was young. She's the host of Big Brother Canada, if you didn't know. I think that the reason is because we weren't up until 2 years ago, maybe it's 3 years now, able to even compete on Survivor. So this is a new occurrence. And I think it has to do with the taxes and paying taxes on winnings. And it's a game show. And if you're not a US resident, you weren't allowed to, or a Canadian anyways, was not allowed to go and win money on an American show. So I don't know how those rules have been shifted and altered to have all these international players come in. But there was one girl from The Bachelor Canada that was on a season of the challenge. I don't know if she had like dual citizenship or whatnot, because it was definitely before Survivor had opened the doors to allowing Canadians to come in. I'm thinking maybe it's something that will happen soon, just because Survivor has opened that door and we're getting these amazing characters. Like, we wouldn't have Shan, we wouldn't have Erica. Erica's now becoming a really big player in the season. Shan was probably the biggest player of the season up until now, and they're both from Toronto. Woo, woo, woo. So I think that once they realize that they have an untapped resource of people that have been waiting, chomping at the bit to come and play some of these shows that haven't had the opportunity or the chance to, just because of whatever gaming laws that there are, that weren't able to get into some sort of agreement. I'm hoping now that we're seeing survivors doing it and it's being successful, it's all under the same umbrella, that maybe they can change these rules now for other shows. So be that the challenge and, even Big Brother. I would die to go on Big Brother US. Oh my gosh.
So if you had your choice, Chantel, of where you would want to go play, and I'm sorry if I'm so used to being the person leading some of these podcasts, so I can't help myself jumping in here and asking the questions. And both of you, Drew, as well, I guess, because what shows would you guys like to do? Because I agree on obviously what you said around Big Brother Canada, and maybe it's a bit, people are now realizing how good the show actually is. I've been following it since Big Brother Canada 2, have been a massive fan of it, and I've also thought a lot of the times it's been a lot more fun compared to the US show. For me personally, they do throw a lot less twists in that I think try and control the flow of the game as much. But what shows would you guys like to play on? Like, because you mentioned you'd love to do Big Brother US over Canada, I'm assuming at this point. If you had your choice, what show would it be? And same for you, Drew.
Well, one of the reasons why I say Big Brother US over Canada is because the money, the prize amount is a lot bigger. And even if I paid 30% taxes, it would still be the same amount in Canadian dollars. So like, give me that 500, give me that 750 G's. I would love that opportunity. I've actually auditioned many times for Big Brother Canada. I've made it quite far through the audition process, but like, it hasn't hit yet. So I just don't know if that's going to be a possibility, with like, they're still using their old casting process. And I've talked to all of them so many times that like, if they're not interested in me, like, they're not interested in me. So I'm curious that with how it's being cast now in the US side, I might have more of an opportunity to cross that barrier, because it's not the same people casting. They kind of open those doors. So that's kind of, I just feel like I might have a better chance of being cast, being a new face in the American market, rather than a repeat offender season after season in Canada. So I think the likelihood is better. I feel like I would be better at Big Brother. I've been a student of Big Brother for like just studying it longer, especially like watching the live feeds since the inception of it. So I've really gotten into the strategy of it. I've played a lot of online and in-person versions of Big Brother. I've created my own weekend-long Big Brother where, so I just like, I get the strategy fully of Big Brother. And I just think that it would be the easiest one for me to potentially win. But I would say yes to any show that would allow me to practice what I preach, to see if I will eat my words, or if I could go there and go out and win. Because I'm always like, bad move. Oh my, why are you doing this? Calling people out on their gameplay. I want to see if I can put my money where my mouth is. So I'd go on any show.
So for me, I think the show that I would be the most likely to get cast on is probably Survivor. I mean, because I've got so many choices of where I could apply, having both South African, New Zealand, and Australian links, there's 3 different franchises that I could apply to play in. So there's a high likelihood I could maybe get picked up one day in one of those. And I have been in the casting process for some of those in the past and have gotten far as well. And life got a little bit busy, so I didn't really apply in the last 2 years, really, because it's just been too much going on in regards to some of the things I've got going on with running a little bit of my own business and work and all that has kept me really busy. But the show, if I had a choice of what I could play, I would most want to play in The Amazing Race. I think The Amazing Race is a great show. I think my experience of traveling, having lived in so many different countries, having traveled a lot, like there's a lot of countries I've been to, understanding what it's like to get around in countries, like for instance, I've traveled in the Middle East, so I've been in areas where you don't always have phone reception. You're going to have to be on a phone. You're going to have a map to get around and things like that. So I think I'd be pretty good in The Amazing Race. I'd love to do that. How about you, Drew?
People are calling you out, Drew.
I know. I you know what? I would put the most pressure on myself if I actually made it to the challenge. And yeah, I would be freaking out. So
have you ever auditioned for any of these shows?
No, I have not. I have not auditioned for any of these shows. I should, just throwing it out there. But I mean, I always said in the past that I'm very much of a homebody. I don't go outside my walls very often, especially now. Well, I would say Big Brother, but nobody watches Big Brother very recently. So I'm thinking, let's go to the circle. I don't even have to talk to anybody except via a TV screen. I can just be in my own apartment.
So good on the circle, and then you might have a backdoor entry into the challenge. Like, look at Ed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, hey, they're pulling people from the circle anyway, so let me have my own like little apartment for a little bit, do a dance party, maybe do some thumbs down games, and maybe.
Would you catfish or would you be yourself?
He'd have to be himself.
I think I would take a picture of what I look like right now and see if I could put that as my profile picture, and people would be like, "Yeah, that's probably that dude. It's probably him. Probably that. Yeah, it's him in the picture. Nobody would try to catfish as him."
I mean, I love the circle too. Circle's great.
Great.
I think you do a really good job on the circle. I think that you better apply. I think they're accepting applications right now, so you should do it.
I really want to, but I really want to do it in like Circle UK. Like I love the UK version
that's done,
so
though,
much.
Isn't it? Aren't we?
It probably is.
It's over.
I mean, it's better to do than the Netflix one since it is a US like show. But I just love the UK reality TV. Obviously. I don't know why. It's just spicier. It's just great. I love Love Island UK better than US.
Obviously.
But yeah, it's so good. The UK versions have been fantastic. Season 2 of the UK. Well, season 1 was really, really good too.
They were all really good. I remember watching The Circle. Like I found a link for it on YouTube, and like I didn't know what it was, and I'm like, "What is this show?" And I just started watching it. I don't know if maybe I heard it on a podcast or something, but I found it and started watching it. I'm like, "This is gold!" And like I blew through the whole season, and then season 2 started pretty close after, and I was like, "This is a great show." And then all of a sudden, the US took it on, and like. Yeah, it's entertaining, but it's not nearly the same as kind of entertaining as it is in the UK. It's so good.
Guys, Chris,
I need some pictures.
I'll have to give you. We'll have to work on your knowledge of South Africa, and if you're going to have some photos. Yeah, give me a book, and you'll have to work on your South African slang if you go out there. I reckon
after our Friday night shows, I'll ask you questions for like an hour about like rugby and everything that happens and Bitcoin.
If you're lucky, I hear Bitcoin. Let's go. Like I'll start a crypto channel next. I was going to say, if you're lucky, if you go onto the circle, you'll be on the same season as Devon, because I heard that Devon said that she wouldn't do any other reality shows, but she would love to do the circle. So who knows? If you're lucky.
Oh man, if Devon was on the same season as me, I would just die. I would be like, vote me out so I can go check to see if Devon is real or somebody's just pretending like Lance Bass from this past season. Like, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I built myself out. I gave myself a rating of 7. Let's go.
But even if you were on the circle, if Devon's a fan, that means she would know who you are, and then after you'd be in that reality world bubble, and you might be able to meet her like just organically.
That'd be awesome.
It would
All
be.
right. So I got to go do my audition tape after this is wrapped up. Somebody suggested I do it in my Top Gun outfit. So I'm definitely going to be doing that, especially with my mustache. So I'll just bring a whole bunch of costumes. I don't even have clothes. I just have costumes in my bag.
Well, I literally did that for my first Big Brother audition. Like I just like put on different outfits and different costumes, and it definitely got me in the door from just my video, but it was before like I did any open calls for it. So they liked it. So it's not a bad idea.
So I just thought of a really good question here. So let's say you do get casted for both of you guys on any of the reality shows that you spoke about so far, on recaps or anything like that. Who would be the player that you'd be the most nervous to meet face to face because you've spoken the most dirt on their name on some of these shows, and they're gonna come in to collect the receipts on it when you play the show with them? So for me, probably I feel like Chantel will say Boston Rob. Like I had him playing and see Boston Rob, he'd just be like, "Oh, you're the guy who don't rate me. You're the guy who don't want to see me back on Survivor." Who would be the people for you that you would not want to see on these shows because they would bloody read it for you, like they would collect on the receipts?
Well, I'm not when I found the winner, but so especially with that being how things would go down. Russell Hantz, I haven't really said that many great things about. I'm not really a fan of his style of gameplay. I can appreciate the fact that he's gotten to the final 2 a couple times and that it works. But like he says that he's the best player that didn't win. No, he would have been the best player if he won. And
Dominic Abate.
So really, you don't like that? Like Tom?
No. I was gonna say Dominic Abate, in my opinion, is the best player to never win.
He should have.
Not that I don't like Wendell.
Wendell.
Not that I don't like Wendell. I like them both. It's just it was such a tough. It was so close. I mean, come on, the guy had a draw and we had to break the tie. So, but I hear
with
you.
the third place
funny
person
thing is,
that's best friends with Wendell. Like, anyways.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we could probably arrange a face-to-face for you with Russell Hantz at some point.
I know. I wouldn't say that on Reality Pop. No way. Drew, do you have a thought?
If I'm talking about the challenge, I think my whole chat knows me. It's gonna be Fessy. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not gonna wear his socks. I'm not gonna. It's either him or Hunter. I've talked the most smack about. Like, I'm just not.
I mean, those are two good people. Ooh. Or Tori? Oh my God, Tori? I'd have to be fake with Tori. Watch me. Would you guys be mad if I was like came out to be like besties with Tori?
I wouldn't know who you are. I would be like, what were those first 16 weeks? Who was the person I was talking to?
I feel like for me, it was until this season. It was without a doubt. It was blank right now. Who's the fella that just went home? The last guy. I just forgot his name. Blank for Floyd. Josh would have been Josh. Yeah, 100% would have been him until this season, and then I've sort of slowly but surely given him a little bit of credit, this season. So maybe Fessy for me as well. Like I've spoken a lot of smack about him as well. So I wouldn't want to face him in a hall brawl. Let's be honest.
I don't know, Drew. I don't know if I would put you in a hall brawl with Fessy if I wanted to see you live. I want all your limbs to be intact. I don't want any sand in your eyes or anything like that. So
I think the videos don't. Like, you can't tell how big I am because I talk next to a tiny table in most of my videos. But I mean, I'm not that big, guys. I'm not. He went down there when Nelson was called down, and Nelson is significantly way bigger in muscles, and I don't know how tall he is, but I mean, I'm like a shrank Devin. I feel like Devin and I are more adequate in our statures. And if Fessy had a choice, he'd be like, send me down. Like if I was going in and he saw Hall Brawl, he's like, I'm going down. Like nobody get in my way.
Kind of like a Kahutta size? Like, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, give me a flaming ball tic-tac-toe board and let's do this thing. Like I'll definitely, man. I'll tell you right now, Kahutta has that hair though. Those locks.
Mesmerizing.
We were talking about beards, but we weren't talking about locks. And
No.
I think Kata has some of the best hair on All Stars
Great
this
hair.
I want to
season.
know what shampoo he's using. It's just conditioner and shampoo. He's keeping it in shape. That's for sure.
I was talking about like the tic-tac-toe challenge and just like how like they're like, oh, okay, we have a shitty challenge, so let's put it on fire to make it seem like it's cool. But wouldn't it have been better if they if they're gonna do like a basic challenge like that, if they did what's it called, Connect Four? So I was talking with my friend Jonathan about the season. He's like, Connect Four is such a better game to play, and like that would be kind of fun if they had to have like these, like it could be on fire if you want it, whatever. But like little discs that they had like a board and they had to like climb up a wall and like put their thing in the board. Like it would have to put some agility in there, and it'd be a longer challenge. So like endurance would be kicking in. I think it would have been a way more effective challenge, and it would have been, I think it would just been better, a lot better.
I never was able to get through Connect Four. I never could get it. I just would always lose. And I would just hate Connect 4. Yeah, I never liked it. I was like, this game is dumb. I don't understand it. And I'm never playing it again. And I never did.
Really?
I lost once. Yeah, well, the kid I was playing was like, had the booklet in front of him. So he was just doing it. And I was like, I don't know how to play this game. He's like, just make 4 in a row. I'm like, all right, cool. And then he just kept on being like, beat you.
Well, kind of like how with tic-tac-toe, there's a strategy of like trying to get like, have 2 options where they if they block one, there's another one open. It's the same with Connect Four. So you're just trying to have an open chain where on 2 sides where like if they block one side, you still win on the other side. So that's kind of the strategy behind Connect Four, is that.
I like
chairs on fire.
Now, who's on fire? Is the contestants, the jukebox, or the chairs? Which is on fire? I just like the thought. Like, which one's on fire?
That would be funny, hilarious.
MTV producers are taking notes right now. They're like, "Yep, that's the next season," because they love to put things on fire. So
anything on fire.
I have a question for you. So I played a bunch of these online reality games. Would you ever play any of them? Because I get asked to play all the time, but I usually say no. But are you interested in playing these games? And you too, Chris, like, because they're always looking for people that want to test strategies, test games, and play. And I'm not always up for it, but if like I can suggest people, sometimes they want to hear from other people that would be willing to play.
So I have played. I played mostly Survivor orgs, as they're called, on Discord, and I played a good handful of them, like 9 of them.
Oh, it's not okay. Did you win?
Yeah, I haven't. Well, it's not a lot. I played with somebody that had like a spreadsheet of 84 orgs that they played. At one point, they were playing 14 at one time, and I was like,
"Oh my god,
do you
that's
sleep?
Too many.
Like, what do you do?"
There's a lot of upkeep with conversation in just one game. So 14.
There's just a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot. So out of 9, and there were some that just did not work out, and they just like cut the season out like in the middle of it. They were just like, well, people are quitting. We're just gonna end the season. So I'm like, all right, I made it to the end, because that was basically the end of the game. But out of 9, I've made it to the end of the game 5 times out of 9. Wow. And I have 1 win to my name. At one point I was playing 4 at one time, but like 2 were like just ending while 2 were just starting. And the 2 I was playing at once, I got to the end on both times. One org, I got the hero of the season, and the other one, I got the villain of the season, because I was just lying to everybody. I was playing both sides, and nobody wanted to vote for me at the end, because I was like,
you were the Russell Hands.
Yeah, I did. I was. And the player that I took all the way, that was playing with me, who didn't talk to anybody, got all the votes, because I just lied to everybody needlessly. And I would be like, don't worry, you're safe. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, they were voted out, and they were like, what happened? I'm like, I have no idea. I'll talk to people. And then
that sounds like more like a Tyler strategy, and that's how Casey won, wasn't it? And Big Brother.
Kinda, a little bit. Yeah. Wait, what was the name of these orgs? Sorry, just before you respond.
There was one called Global Viver that's not necessarily out there. There's Dark Alliance was my first one, and it was from a fantasy movie league. So that one was a really fun one. I got to 5 and I was like hooked. I was like, let's do this thing. I played Indie Orc, which was my favorite. I played that one twice, but I was ousted when I came back for Heroes versus Villains. There were so many villains ready to play that I wasn't ready. I was like, I'm turning a new leaf. I want to be a hero.
I'm a hero.
And then there was one called Crack Fiver. That was my last org. And I was on the bottom going into the final 8. And I lied about voting for somebody and they didn't go out. So I was like ousted by my whole crew. And then I had to make this person believe me. And I was like, this is what they're doing. And finally they like at the midnight hour, they swapped their vote. And we tied it. Because of a game move, they were eliminated, and then I just played the game and got to the end and got like 1 vote because out of pity. So
at least you're not a no vote finalist there.
Hallelujah. I mean, I've always gotten like 2nd place or 3rd place, but that was like my last one, and nobody on the jury really. They all like had their own like person that they were going for. Like there was like 2 big alliances, and I was in the middle of both. So the players that I was sitting next to, one was the number 1 guy of the other one and the other guy of the other one. So it was just like, it was kind of like a toss up of what could happen. So
perfect. So yes, you would play. Yes. Okay. Chris?
Yes, I did. Sorry. That was a long speech about my org history, but yes, I have, but I haven't played it in a while because it just takes a lot of time. You don't know how long it takes. And then I'm trying to do videos and stuff. So there's times where there was one point where I merged and I had to do a review and recap, and we merged right in the middle of my review and recap. And I was just like 50 texts of just people like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I was like, what is going on? Like, yeah, please.
You're not selling it to me at the moment, Drew. I've never played it before. I've been invited to quite a few of them, actually, since I started podcasting. A lot of people have started reaching out to me in different ways. And like, I probably will do it at some point just because I want to be a part of the community, the online community, and experience it. But I would have to be smart about when I do it because my work keeps me busy. Like, I mean, 12 hours, 16-hour days sometimes with doing the podcast stuff outside of that. And yeah, it can be pretty tough. So we'll have to see. I did do, when I was like in high school, we had like a camp where everybody went away for the weekend, and there was like an actual Survivor game that was played. We were doing challenges out on the camp, and we were like voting people off, and it was probably the closest thing to the real thing that we experienced over there as part of like a high school activity, which I won't say where I placed because I don't want there to be any targets down the line, but didn't do too badly in that one. So
that sounds like a winner, humble brag. If I didn't hear one,
didn't win. I did get 2nd place in that season. Probably the same as Drew. I probably cut too many people along the way, but it was a lot of fun. You know, how do you think, Chantel, these games would sort of translate if you were ever to go out there and play? Because you're probably the person who's done the most of them, I would assume.
I don't know if have I done 9? Maybe I've done about 9. I've played a few in real life though. And so when my first taste was like a backyard Big Brother over a weekend, over 2 days. And like, I like the nerves and like how like intense it was, and like being like I wasn't smoking, and like I like bought a pack of cigarettes because I'm like, oh my God, this is so stressful. And so I really felt that it was a really good representation of like, when you focusing on something and you want to do well, that I think that it allowed me to realize how stressed out I actually will be. And like how much harder it will be to lie to people's faces. Like, so it was just like, it was very visceral. And so I do think that having those in-person opportunities to play have been great for me to know that I could handle being in the situation and still doing really well. Like even memorizing, like for Big Brother, the end game competitions are usually like knowing facts about the game. And so I realized that like I'm actually was pretty decent at that, even on this 2-day span. So if like I'm memorizing it for like the whole season, like if I got to the end, oh my God, am I breaking my strategy here? But
taking
like, I think that like I'd be good at the end game competitions because like I realized that I was pretty good at them. So I think the live reality version, so if you ever get a chance to play in an in-person type game, if you want to come to Canada, I have 2 friends that have played my version of Big Brother, but they also put on their version of Survivor, which I have played. And we go out and we like sleep in tents. Like if you're on the losing team, you're eating Mr. Noodles like on the fire that you had to like build yourself. So they really go and like put in the work to make it quite an amazing Survivor experience. So if you ever want to come to Canada for a weekend and play that, I definitely can hook you up. And it was awesome. And hey, I was already told that I'll be asked back for All Stars. So
that's cool.
Go and do well, and then maybe we can play an All Star season together.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I don't think it would translate at all for me. Like those last challenges where they have the rules, like what day did this happen or this happen? I'm the worst because I know it's coming up, and then when I get there, I'm going through all the Discords channels and writing down everything, what the results were, who scores were what, and you can't do that in real life because they don't give you pens or anything. So you just gotta keep doing it. Now you're at home, you're doing other things, you're making videos, you're watching TV. There's a lot more going on. When you're in the game, there's nothing else to go on. You're just like sitting
can't
there.
switch off.
Yeah, you're just watching the waves go by on the beach for like the 26th night, or you're like in the HOH bedroom, not doing anything, listening to your 3 Doors Down album that they were allowed to bring you in on your CD player. But yeah.
Do we know what challengers get up to in their time off? Because obviously in Survivor, you're out on an island, and Big Brother, you're in a house. You don't have entertainment and stuff. Are challengers allowed to watch Netflix? Are they allowed to do anything like that while they're in the house?
I would say no, because it's always like very like special moment when you see them on Skype. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're pretty much cut off from the outside world unless something serious happens. And it only seems like it's been recent that they've been showing these Skype interviews, kind of from when Jenna started dating Zach and he's been acting shady. I can't remember before, like the time when Zach was like, calling Jenna the wrong name. Maybe there was, but I don't remember there being a Skype moment before that season. So I'd say no. I don't think that they allowed them to have contact with the outside world.
It's interesting because back in the day they would. Like when it was, I don't know if it was Gauntlet 2 or before that. No, it was Battle of the Sexes 2. It was Frank and Jillian were in the bed watching a movie together, and they had a laptop, and they were like, oh, Frank and Jillian is so boring. They're like a married couple already, and they're the most boring couple. And they were able to like watch the show. I remember in Battle of the Sexes 2, Tina was like, if the cell phone's open, I'm going to be talking on it. And so she was just calling all her friends at any point. And that was a point of contention in the house, was Tina using the cell phone too much. So yeah, it's definitely transitioned away from that. And now they're like depleted of everything. Now they have to like just sit in the house.
Miss the T-Mobile sidekicks? Like, oh, we got a message from DJ. Like, I miss that. I miss that, and I miss the toast. Sorry, like I do. I want, like, we saw Nehemiah do the toast. I was like, yes, this is the challenge. I want the toast.
Yeah.
You know, pissed.
Yeah, so we've got Corey, not Corey, I think in the chat just said, got to try and stop the spoilers from the cast somehow, I guess. So probably with not getting them to be on the phones too much and things like that. Wasn't there a rumor about Josh being someone that was caught giving a lot of spoilers away on these seasons or something before this season started? I think I read something, unless I'm going crazy. But again, it just shows he must have some good connections because he's still on the season.
Oh, the T-Mobile sidekick? that was like before the selfie even existed, you know? That's like Paris Hilton days. Like I even watched The Simple Life.
I mean, luckily they get to watch Netflix and everything during their quarantine phases of all the shows and whatever they want when they're in the hotel, and then when they're yelling over the balcony to each other while they were just like chilling out. That's one way to pregame as well. I don't know if either one of you go to Fessy's Instagram or Twitter post, but this was sent to me by a friend, but also it was asked by Astra Downer, who says Fessy tweeted about having the challenge travel the US with live daily challenges for people to watch in different cities. Do you think this is a good idea or even remotely obtainable for the current main seasons or maybe all-stars? I know a lot of people were memeing on him, but dang, I'd do anything to see challengers compete live. To me, this sounds like a traveling circus more than the challenge, and I don't think they would be able to do it because there's so much setup that has to happen before they even get to the situation or the location. And also, this would be a nice throwback because this is basically Road Rules versus Real World, the challenge before they started doing it just in the house. I think the first 4 seasons were on buses, so it was kind of like a Road Rules season, but with 2 competing teams. I don't like this idea, but I would like it for a throwback, like maybe like a 2-week test or something to that effect, like make the newer school people do Road Rules stuff. But I heard Road Rules is coming back for Paramount Plus exclusive. So
that's great. That's what I want to see. I guess if it was pretty much anybody other than Fessy maybe suggesting this, I might be able to get behind it. But I'm like, I don't want him to be pitching his own show where he gets to show off in front of people. Like, let's who wants to face me in a hall brawl? Like, I'm just like, no, I'm not into it. But I agree with you, Drew. I like the idea of having a throwback to Road Rules. Obviously, that's where I got invested in my, competitive reality TV love. And so I could enjoy that, maybe going from city to city and actually just like the cast doing their episode or whatever, playing their games and allowing there to be an audience. But I guess the problem would be is like in this day and age, it's all the spoilers. So I just don't know how that would work unless it was a live showing of these events, which I can get behind that. They build it up and they have the audience come and then they have the different competitions, but would have to workshop it and Fessy can't be a part of it.
So as a massive sports lover, so I get it from that angle in regards to like, I'd love to go into like this massive arena, see all my favorite players that I watch every season be down there and compete against each other. Do I think it will work in a normal challenge season? No. So I agree with you guys. If we made it an event where it's like something that they could do once a year, they get a whole bunch of challenges, the best of the best challenges to go and compete and do certain events, almost like CrossFit Games, yeah, do it. Why not? Let's make an event out of it. Let's get people together to celebrate the challenge. Anything that brings more awareness to the show and then can lead into more viewers watching the challenge seasons. Why not? I'm not going to knock it just because Fessy is the person who's suggesting it. But it won't be the challenge as we know it. It won't work with the current show and the format that we have. So it'll have to be some sort of a spin-off of what we currently have, if that makes sense. But I'm not completely against it because I love shouting people on or booing people to their face opposed to doing it just through the TV. Like I would love to be out there, and it could be a good day event or a couple of day event if we had it once a year.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Road Rules, I know we talked about it a little bit on Reality Pop once. So with Road Rules coming back or supposedly coming back, and with the new Netflix show Roaring 20s, which seems very, very similar to a real world setup. I
think they changed the title of it because I just was watching on Netflix and I think they changed it to 20 somethings.
That's it?
Unless that's a different show. I feel like I just saw I'll even take a picture if it pops up again, but it said on Netflix 20 somethings and it was 20 somethings. I don't know what the Brooklyn or something. I can't remember the city. And so it's Netflix. It wouldn't be the same show called Roaring 20s and 20 somethings, right? Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just shocked by that.
No, I'm not going to lie. I was thinking you can't come up with a worse title to a show than the Roaring 20s until you said, I think it's called 20 somethings. And I'm like, that's worse. That's the worst title. But with that new show, very similar, close to Real World, do we think that there should be Real World come back? Should Real World come back? I don't think it would ever come back to the MTV because of ridiculousness has to be on there for 23 hours a day, except for the challenge days where it's 20 22.5 hours. But do we think that Real World could have a spot in Paramount Plus if it's an exclusive, if it's like 10 episodes or however long Real World seasons were? Because I feel like if you're going to do Road Rules, which seems to have a lot more moving pieces with a bus or Winnebago, you're driving around to different cities doing different tasks. Wouldn't it be as easy or even easier to just have a house full of kids just sitting in a house doing whatever they do on the Real World? I personally think that it could work. I mean, we have the Real World Homecoming doing so well, or at least drumming up that nostalgia. I just think with Paramount Plus becoming such a more mainstay streaming service, I think that it could have a place, and then we could have Real World and Road Rules contestants for the challenge. But what does everybody think about that?
I'm okay. I mean, I would probably watch it and enjoy it, but I'm wondering if the formula and the magic has been lost with kind of how we perceive what's entertaining and what people want to watch in 2021. So I don't think that any of our favorites would even be cast today. And so I just don't know if they have the magic formula to make that work again right now. But I'm down with them giving it a shot and seeing if it would work. I would watch it. I would give it a chance. But I just don't know if they understand the magic that they had when they were casting for the first, 20, 30 seasons, 30 something, 33.
And it's a good point you bring up there in regards to, because obviously I can't comment much on Real World itself because I've never watched those shows before, but it's a good comment you bring up in regards to what we perceive as entertainment right now, and what not just what we perceive as entertainment, what the producers perceive as entertainment, and what's going to bring views to the show. Because you see a little bit of this happening on other reality shows now as well, where people get cast for their followers on Instagram or on social media. Athletes being casted to do some of these shows, not really normal people with a great personality. Yeah, so it's kind of moved away from that, which I think in general reality TV is poorer for it. I mean, a great example of that is Casey, who, is probably another person I do talk a lot of filth on as well. I'm sure she's a great person. If I meet her, I would probably love her. I think she's a great person, but she's very vanilla when it comes to being on the show, and she just does not bring a lot of personality to the show, but she's obviously a good competitor. I think that, if the main premise of the show is it has to be an entertaining cast that's going to be in the house doing things throughout their day, and you want to follow these people in their lives because you want them to do more than just go down to the local smoothie shop to get a protein shake. You're going to want to see some personality, you know what I mean? So that's going to be a really, really big and important thing if they were to cast for this show. So I don't have much of an opinion on if it would work or if it won't work, but I agree with Chantel. Casting has gotten poorer on a lot of shows, and I think that's why I personally have liked this season of the US Survivor. I think that the cast itself is great, even though Jeff is trying very, very hard to
ruin their games,
to ruin the game and bring stupid twists into it. The cast has been solid. So I'm hopeful that we can see a change to better personalities and people being casted on our favorite reality shows. But that's really, really important.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Hold on. So it's called 20 somethings. That's the thing, right? That's the same show, right? True?
Is it? Sure.
Would Netflix have a show called Roaring 20s and 20 somethings that seems like it says it's in Austin.
So I think they did change the name of the show probably because the Roaring 20s does not make sense. I know it's like buzzwords to stuff that used to happen back in the 20s, but 20 somethings is still a terrible name. I'm not gonna lie. I really think they wanted the Real World and was just like, can we go around it? True Earth, Austin, something. Please, can we do synonyms? Please. I think Chris brings up a fantastic point that I thought of when I was trying to mentally prepare for this live. I was pacing around my house and just going over what the conversation would be, who would say what. And one of the thoughts that I had is that the challenge has shown or proven to us in these newer seasons that it's so much easier for a person with a good personality or good on-camera personality to get muscular and be good at the game than somebody who is an athlete who is trying to work on a good on-camera personality. Like, it's like, take Cara Maria. Cara Maria was not built when she first came onto the challenge, but she kept on being asked back. She kept on training, and then she became a 2-time champ. Whereas now we're getting players who are athletes or used to be college athletes who are kind of stumbling out of the gate, and they're not as personable, and nobody likes them as much, or they are likable, but not to the mass majority. And I just think that that's what I'm learning, looking back on all the reflections of the recent seasons of the challenge. Would you agree with that, or do you think that you can still work on your personality? Like, I still think you can work on a persona in the house that could do well, but as a reality TV, you want reality. Like, you want somebody to just be themselves and still be good at the game.
That's what I'm not enjoying about the new era of the challenge, for instance, is that they are getting people that like to manufacture the drama. So you have them chatting with each other pre-season, but in a way that's not like Wes does it, but he does it in a way that he has numbers, so at least he can be strategic. Josh does it so he can have like, okay, we're gonna have a beef and like we'll have a fight so we can be asked on. And Dee was doing it where she's like, okay, well, we need a storyline, we need to like build like a reason for them to call us back. It's like, do you know what, the people that got called back in the past was just because they were entertaining and they got along with people, or they didn't get along with people, but it was because it was organic and real, not because it was manufactured. And so I don't think really that you can manufacture a personality, but I do think that if you are an entertaining person, interesting person, that you could become really great at the challenge. So yeah.
And I've got a really deep follow-up question. I think it's deep, might be shallow. Let's see. Sometimes my takes can be out there, but we have changed in society. We spoke about this a little bit. What is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. You now get a lot of people that are living on social media. They have people coming at them and hating on them for good or bad reasons sometimes. Do we think this has changed the whole trajectory of reality TV, that even when these people come on there, they are more afraid to be themselves and say certain things because they think that it's going to get them in trouble? Like, I mean, when Johnny Bananas and Wes and CT and all these people started, and the rest of them, back then, there wasn't social media. They weren't getting as much hate towards them very quickly if they did or said something controversial on the show, or they just created some entertainment. Do we think that that is also potentially played into this? I don't think it's the only reason. Just let me get that right, because certain people, they just don't have it. But do we think that it is definitely adding to it at this point?
Well, definitely when you're casting people that care about their social media followers, that they're also going to be very, very cautious of the persona that they're putting out there. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we didn't see the fight that happened with Josh and Ashley, is because of what the audience would be seeing about Josh or learn about him, whether it's true or not true. I don't care, but he didn't want that information to be shared with people for however he's going to be perceived by the outside world. So we're getting people that are just more cautious of how they are being represented and shown. And before, it didn't seem as big of an issue. It didn't seem like people were like, oh, let me do this for TV time. Like maybe in the diary room, we have like, Chilltown going in there and like making their little silly confessionals. I'm fine with that, but I'm not fine with like Wes was trying so hard. Josh was trying so hard to create a rivalry with Wes. And Wes is like, I don't care. We're not.
This is never going to happen.
No, it's not. We're not in a rivalry. But it's because Josh was just trying to link on to have some screen time with somebody. I 100% do feel that with this new age of people where social media capital is part of what you are gaining from going on these shows, and people are very, very considerate of how they're being portrayed, because Twitter is ruthless, and they're just being a little bit vanilla because of it, I think.
Another thing, this season, do we feel like, 'cause there was so many great characters early on in the season, do we feel like some of the best characters just left too early? Like some of the people that could have been really big. They just never got the opportunity to get a foothold in the game because of this very boring veteran alliance that's been running the whole game this season. And it's not the players we want to see do well, because that's kind of the feeling I got. Like, there were certain players early on that, I mean, Ed, saw a few people mention Ed a couple of times here in the chat. He's someone that's brought a lot of personality to the show. I think we spoke about it on the Challenge Insiders podcast, where he's a bit of a throwback to some of the older characters, people that just wanted to have fun out there. His next season's going to be important to see if he can also bring a strategic edge to the game. I know, Chantal, you really want to see that side of it as well, to get behind Ed. But Ed was a great example. We had, Esther from Nigeria, that I thought was pretty good early on in the season. Michaela didn't really get a foothold. Michelle didn't. We had the new Corey in there who seemed to be pretty good. There was some good new blood that got brought into the show. It's just, I feel like we were let down by the fact that they were just out of the season too early on. So we didn't really get to see them go deep and create a little bit more of a following for them, or a need or a want to see them back next season, because they just didn't make it that far.
Well, yeah, because the reason why they were pinpointed or targeted was because they were going to be outspoken, that they were the ones that were like kind of ruffling feathers and was like, wait a minute, we could do something here. Like, we could take out some of these vets if we work together. And it just didn't, they weren't able to get their foothold. But that's exactly why, because they were the bigger personalities. They were deemed as the most threatening to the vet alliance. So they were the first ones to be thrown into the elimination, partnered up with partners that could drag them down, be anchors in a sort of a way. So yeah, I think we were
Pels.
Yeah, we got robbed from seeing some of the better vets or better rookies that were on this season, I think. And not saying that Logan and Manuel and Emmy haven't played a good game, but they were the most like, oh, well, I'll be with the vets, I'll do whatever they want, and I'll get farther into the game. And it worked out for them. It got them to this point, but it would have been so much more excitement and spiciness if we would have been able to get some of the players to get their footing and be like, hey, look at my list that I made, or this is what I've been seeing that could really help us out later in this season.
Well, I think this is also this new era of reality TV where it's just, I think someone in the chat was mentioning voting like with the house and like numbers advantages. And I've never really been a fan of having, like, when I've played, I want to be in the big alliance. Absolutely. That's the way you play the game, dominate, get to the end and win, having some sort of like, you are in the nucleus of like a major alliance or of some sort. It's like, that is the way to win the game, but it's not the most interesting to watch as a viewer. And so the last, at least 5 seasons or so, it's been one big alliance that just dominates and just takes out people on the outskirts. It's just how the game has been played for the last little bit. And the Big Brother people really brought that into the season because they know that it's effective. They know that it works. You have to stay together and just take everybody else that is even trying to penetrate this big alliance. But it doesn't work for entertainment's sake, and it doesn't work for obviously the people that are not part of that big group. So I think it was Howie from Big Brother 6. He was on 2 seasons ago because we're talking about the most recent All-Star season and how it was so boring because it was just one big alliance that was taking out all of our favorites basically. And he was saying, it's like, well, nobody wants to watch that. If you're watching, say, a football game and there's just one team that's just demolishing another team, that's not interesting. You want to see the best of the best going head to head. It's going back and forth, and like, you don't know who's going to win, and you lose a player and you lose a player and you lose a player is kind of how you'd want to see Big Brother and in turn the challenge go. And so I wish that we got a little bit more of a back and forth, that we were allowed to see these rookies really come together. I think the fact that some of them were paired with vets, like maybe they should have just kept it completely separate, maybe, so they wouldn't have the influence of the vets. They would just be able to maybe create their faction together and then maybe be like, no, we have to stick together to go against the vets, and maybe would have had a little bit more of a back and forth. But I think with this new era, people know that best is together. It's just unfortunate that these rookies didn't break the system. They didn't figure out how to infiltrate.
Yeah, I was going to add. the beginning of this season, and someone else mentioned it here in the chat as well. We had so many great rookies that came in this season. I had very high hopes that this was going to be a fun season to watch throughout. And one of the twists that we had was that was going to be pairs, but as soon as you go down into the arena and you win, you could break your pair and you could go to any other team, and also you could individually nominate people individually in a pair. You didn't have to put the whole pair down there, which I think was such a massive disadvantage for rookies from the beginning of the season, because even those rookies who got paired with really good veterans, like you kind of alluded to there, they didn't get an opportunity to get a foothold in the game and to leverage those relationships that the vets in their pairs had to really get themselves deep in the game. So I don't know how the producers come up with these things, but I feel like the twists they've tried in the last 3-4 seasons, it's just progressively been worse and worse, and it just hasn't worked out. It hasn't made for entertaining TV as of yet. I'm ready for a mix-up. I'm ready to see a Rivals season.
It's like the end of the season. Sorry.
No, I'm ready for a mix-up for future seasons. Bring back a Rivals season. We've had enough rivalries now. Do an X's if you need to, but bring something different up. We need to spice it up. It's been too many spy themes, too many World of the War themes, just do something different. We need something fresh. And that's why All-Stars has been so fun to watch, because they're not going down that same trajectory. It feels fresh. It's different themes. There's a lot of new players. The relationships aren't as ingrained because they haven't played together for 7 seasons in a row, even though they may have known each other from 20 years ago.
Wouldn't you love to see like the X's where they make them do things to not take themselves that seriously? Like they used to really make fun of these players in a sense, where make them dressing up in wedding dresses and running and doing these challenges and carrying each other upside down. And they just made them do really uncomfortable, really awkward things that I think would maybe help the Fessy to humble him a little bit, because he gets to be, I'm so cool, I'm double agent, infiltrate, I'm the handler, whatever. That's kind of cool. But I want to make them feel a little bit dumb, take themselves a little bit less seriously, realize that it is just a game, and what we used to love about it was a bit of the lightheartedness, and then seeing these amazing players emerge, but not that coming to the game as these American Ninja Warriors. I want to see them evolve into that, not come onto the show as that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I brought it up on Reality Pop, or we were just talking off camera or something to that effect, but I would much rather them do a summer camp, do a summer themed, and it's already in a sunny environment. They're not taking themselves too seriously, and we don't have to do the Big Brother camp out or whatever that they did in Big Brother US that one time, where they're just all I don't even remember that season, but it was just don't go too campy with it, but do an old school vibe where it's not all explosions or anything. You can still have 19 episodes. You can still have them an hour and a half if you really wanted to, but really just let them have a pool. Yeah, sand, and do some of these fun, different challenges, kind of like an All-Stars, but you can make it more summer camp vibe, I think. And it's still a theme that people can get behind, and you can treat it as a little vacation to maybe loosen some players up. I think the theme really weighs down some people because it's so dark, it's so heavy. It's we are agents, we're all dressed in black, we're all having to get this kickball that we dressed with a skull on it because it's technically an explosive device or whatever. It's all right, we get it, we understand where you're trying to go for, but no, it's not going to work. So that's what
I hated Total Madness because they're locked in the bunker, no sunlight. I'm I guess you're trying. I get it that you're trying to torture these people, but it's not really that fun to see people not having a good time for 6 months. Let them see some fresh air and some sunlight, please, and give them maybe a bikini and a couple of pool scenes. Come on, just lighten it up a bit. Sorry, Chris, I kind of cut you off.
I was just going to say, Kellyanne in the chat says she knows what the next theme season is and isn't too happy about that. But I'm not too sure if we want to go into spoiler territory. I don't know anything about the next season at all. At this point, I'm guessing it's going to be down the same line of what we've seen up until this point. Another spy themed type of thing. Cool guys don't look at explosions type of theme season, probably,
I mean, if
which
it
is
was that with Adam Sandberg, like I'd be really, really down with it being a cool guys don't look at explosions theme. Like, what if they did all Coney Island themed challenges? So we like, I'm on a boat. We'll have that one. He had so many, I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but sorry, that would be phenomenal.
There have been some comments saying that whenever I said like, please be a rivals or X's or free agents too, or something to that effect. A lot of comments have been like, well, they talked about how this is like a trilogy. And it's like, back in the day when you had Inferno to Inferno 3, there weren't just
in
like
between.
Yeah, they weren't like full through. They were like other seasons in between that they let, like, that's what I think of a trilogy. You don't have to like go full on, like, we bought all this in bulk. Like, we can't just let this go to waste. We have to use it.
So many
now.
explosives. We had to bring them on to All Stars because we had some left over. We had some fire left over.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to do all three themes all at once. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark. I don't know if either one of you have to go, if you can hang out for a couple more minutes, or
I'm totally fine.
Yeah, can hang out for a few more minutes. Yeah,
it's all for you for 20K. It's pretty awesome, and I'm having a great time. So no worries.
Yeah,
my Saturday night is cool.
Yeah, I'm having a fantastic time too, and the time kind of just like went away while we were just talking about all these random different things. There was one thing I wanted to bring up real quick, and I don't know how quick of a conversation it's going to be, but I've found that and a lot of people have brought it up in the past, that I feel like there's a lot of criticism that comes specifically to the women competitors, and it's either they're there for the entertainment purposes and people are frustrated because why are we casting them? They're never going to win. They'll never make it to a final, or they don't get too far into the game or whatever. Or even if they make it to a final, how much can they really win when they are when there's another aspect of the women competitors, and that is Jenny and Casey, who are by and far some of the most athletic competitors just overall in the game. And but yet when we ask for competitors, what they give us is athleticism, but not necessarily the personality, or they aren't giving us a lot of fun confessionals or anything. I've heard a lot of people call them furniture in the game. So where can we find this happy medium? Can there be a happy medium, or are we seeing too much of a drop off? Because we don't get some of this with some of the male competitors. Like, we don't get all this criticism, I think, on the men's side. And I wonder if it's because the competition is a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more balanced up at the top. There's not as many like, oh, there's only one or two really strong, and a lot of the other ones are not going to make it out. Like, where do we see the balance, or is there a balance that can be seen, or should the challenge change up their format? And I was thinking, back in the day, anybody could compete, whether it's political. It didn't matter how many muscles you had. Jody was taken out by Veronica in elimination. Yeah, Jody was taken out by Veronica. I said that right. So where do we have to go? Or is there a way of, like we were talking about, can we make the more competitive and athletic have a bit more personality? Or what are your experiences or thoughts on this?
I think just off the top of my head, I haven't obviously thought about this a lot. I think that the challenges that they do now are geared towards people that are more physically adept. And so it kind of rules out the people that were on the challenge for different reasons. So not to say that I do respect what people like. I love Jody. I love like anybody that comes up and is able to compete and are like wow, you're amazing. But I think that it's like with these different competitions or eliminations that are really geared for really strong people, and you're not necessarily using your brain strength. Like, I want to see maybe more well-rounded dailies where people like maybe have different portions of them where like different sections where like different skills would be tested so that people that aren't necessarily athletic can catch up and do well. I think that they're really gearing it towards the super athletes, and not all the people that are from the previous era of the challenge are super athletes. They were, as you said, were there for other strengths that they had, whether it's the confessional queens or kings, or you know, they were really great at politicking or whatnot. I mean, people did have different skill sets that they're not allowing to be utilized in the game right now. It seems like the main focus is just athleticism in one certain way, and so it just kind of leaves everybody else out in the dust.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, for me, I would kind of say, whose eyes are we looking at, through which lens are we looking at the female competitors when we say that they're furniture or that they don't bring a lot of value to the show currently? And a lot of the times on these shows, we do still get the men, not all of them. I don't want to put them all under the same sort of, thing here and say that they all talk bad about the women, but there's quite a few of them that are quite good at the game that look down on them consistently, and that a lot of fans follow these men. For instance, CT is a good example. He's been pretty harsh on women in the past and female partners. We love him, but that doesn't put them in the greatest of lengths all the times. Fessy last season consistently complaining about his partners and things like that does not help. Devin this season feeling like Tori needs to fall on the sword for him in his game, which to me is just absolutely craziness. I do think that there's a lot of good females that are playing the game still currently that are entertaining to watch. You might like them, you might not like them. Like for instance, Cam, great competitor. I'm sad that all these things are going on at the moment, and I'm glad Leroy spoke out and has had that conversation. It must make you wonder, will Cam want to come back? How does this affect Cam on a personal level? Because this is her person that is going through this, that feels like MTV hasn't really stepped up in the past. And does this mean that we don't see Cam in the future? Tori is great. Jenny West is great as a competitor, probably not the best personality, I guess, on the show, but Cara Maria, definitely would love to see her back. We've had great competitors in the past in that. So I don't think that it's, and in this season we had a lot of good new females that just didn't get far in the game that could have been big characters. I don't think that the quality of the females are down. I do think we've got good competitors. The one thing I do want us to consistently see in the future is I don't want it to be all men and women go for the same individual price like the season where Turbo won. Like I want there to be, whenever they go individual, for there to be a male champion and a female champion. There is a reason in sport why you've got men and women competing separately, because it's very difficult for women to compete with men when it comes to a lot of these athletic competitions, and they just don't have the same bone structure when it comes to running up a mountain, for instance. You know what I mean? It's just basic physiology. So at the end of the day, I do think we need those two individuals, but I personally am not as low on the female competitors that we have. I mean, Amanda's another person who just came back this season and has shown how great of a character she is. So she does bring a lot of that entertainment as well. I just think that there should be a little bit more respect put on some of the females' names that are coming back and playing the show. And a lot of the times when we hear that they're not good enough or that they're not competent, it is through the eyes of the men that are playing the show more so than anything else. And then we as the viewers probably take that on board and we take it as gospel, especially if it's someone that we look up to on the show playing the game as well. That's kind of my view on it. I'm not as low on the females that are playing. I think there is still a good group of them at the moment. I wouldn't put Casey and Jenny West as two extreme examples of probably not the most entertaining ones. Amber B, obviously, who I'm a massive fan of. Great. I know Chantel is lower on her than me and Drew, but I like Amber B and I want her to come back. I think she can still continue to add more value to the show as well. And she does bring drama, good or bad.
Now, you bring up the solo game. I do think that the War of the Worlds 1's final is one of the toughest finals, but I also think that the way it was put together was a little bit unfair when it came down to who had the advantage coming down to the win. But I loved Vendetta's final with how it was like, not the actual final, but the way it was sectioned off, that at the end of phase 1, the top 4 players, the best 2 men and 2 women, would go on to do a puzzle. And then you had to put the puzzle together with some endurance. And then Cara Maria was able to win that. And I thought that was a good equalizer compared to what was happening in War of the Worlds. But Yeah, I think they a lot of the women competitors don't get acknowledged as much. I think that like I mean, just with Amber B, I mean, she won last season and she came into this season and nobody gave any respect to her. A lot of the vets didn't care for her, and a lot of the rookies didn't view her as a rookie because she won. So I mean, it's I think it's also, I would put it on MTV in the way they produce the show and the editing, because going into the edits, they already know who wins. They don't just edit on the fly and it's just like week to week, kind of like how Big Brother is. It's not like a live house. I think that they could make the edits a little bit more like,
Favorable.
you can make it a little bit more like fun for who's actually winning and who's going to make it farther into the season, than say a lot of the players that they just want to like throw in as like a flash in the pan because they go into the elimination and it makes it so easy and predictable to know who's going in and possibly being eliminated or winning. So I think that's also on the editing team for not making, maybe bolstering up some of the interviews or confessionals of, say, the players that go farther into the season in the final to make us want to root for them, farther into the season. That was just one question and thought that came into my mind while I was
But it is a
back
good
and forth.
question. It's a good question because if you think of this season, right, and you bring up a valid point here, who are we looking at this season from a female perspective? And we're thinking, man, I really want her to win this season because the story has been about this person the whole season. They've built the arc of a champion for this female in the confessionals and the way that it's been shown. I mean, the only one I can think of is potentially it's potentially going to be Amanda because of the fact that she's a nurse. She had to deal with everything over the last year in regards to being a responder. She had a child. So we've got a little bit of a backstory where you're like, I would like to see Amanda go and win this for her kid after all of the things she's done for people as we struggle. I don't know if we can say the word because I don't want to get demonetized, but specifically having to deal with what's happened over the last year, you can get behind her a little bit. But do you feel the same level of wanting to get behind Casey or maybe Emmy? Emmy's had this underdog story, I guess, this season, but there's a lot less where I feel like with the men, I could very easily say, yeah, I want CT to do well. I want Kyle to do well. There's been a bit of a story. I know this is going to make Chantel cringe. I like Nelly T more and more this season. So, go Nelly, go Logan. There's been a lot of story around some of these
let's go misogyny. Yes. like the only reason I didn't mind him last week is because he didn't yell at a woman. Anyway, sorry, that's my irritation.
Granted. He's like, sweet and sour. It's love hate, like definitely when he goes bad. And I think the guy puts his foot in his mouth a lot of the times when he says certain things. But you get my point. There's more players that they're building. I feel like around the men, they're building a story for us to get behind them. But if you look at the women this season, I feel like there isn't that many women in the season that you want to shout for here at the end. Maybe an Amanda, maybe an Emmy at this point. Tori's getting a little bit of an underdog story now as well. So that's coming to the forefront. Because the whole Devon thing, if you looked at the fights between Devon and Tori, like if you're on Devon's side at this point, like that's just craziness to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, is like, even when you bring up Amanda, who has probably the best story arc of everybody, it's how sporadic she comes into the episodes. When it is her or something, she just like is spiking and she will be put all over the episode. And then if not, the only time she's mentioned is when her team is like, you better perform well and take this challenge seriously. I know you're just here for a vacation and not wanting to win the $1 million. It's like, if anybody's here to win the $1 million, it's Amanda. Like, she only sees green. So you don't have to like worry about Amanda wanting to win. That's all I'm going to put out there. But that is a good point that you bring up, Chris. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about everything that I had planned to talk about. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to share, or did anybody find a tea online? Because I'm not gonna lie, I did not find as much tea as I was thinking I was going to.
I guess the one thing I can bring up here, since we've spoken a bit about other shows and things like that, for people who are fans who may not have seen the interview on Rob Has a Podcast, and go and watch that between, I think it was Parvati and Rob speaking about the challenge very briefly. Parvati said that she would be open to doing the challenge in the future. So it does open up. Apparently, she was in talks about potentially doing this season. So that was some tea that got spilled in that podcast. And I think that, you know, she could be one of those players that could be in like an all-stars themed season where you get legendary battle of the shows or something on the show as well. So that's probably the main thing that I can add.
Yeah. Ryan, I remember Ryan Knight. I saw a lot of posts about him today. He passed away this time in 2014, the same year that DM was passed away. So that's insane. I'm not gonna lie. That I just remember watching that one episode, and they had both the memoriam for both of them. And rest in peace, Ryan Knight. I would love a battle of the shows, to be honest. I mean, we're coming on the 10th year, and every year that ends in 2, it seems as though that there is a battle of the seasons, battle of the shows, battle of the seasons, season 5 in 2002, then 2012 for season 23. So let's make it season 38. Battle of the shows.
No, but that means we're gonna have Big Brother, and I think that's another thing that's been ruining with our challenge. You know, this is our show. They're ruining it. Is that they're not choosing in my opinion, the people from the Big Brother that I enjoy or that I thought were strategic or that are quite likable. They have an idea of what they think that we want. I wasn't really a fan of Casey. I wanted Tyler to win. I only wanted Josh to win because it was not Paul, and so. Fessy, I thought that he was the biggest ding dong for completely turning on his own alliance and ended up giving the numbers to the other side of the house. He wasn't a good player on Big Brother. I was just ugh. Who else? Everybody that came from Big Brother. I did want to see Amber to see how she would do because she did get kind of the short end of the stick with how her season went. It wasn't her fault that Beast Mode Cowboy decided to take a liking on her and then she ended up getting targeted for that reason. And everybody else that they're bringing on, I just think there weren't necessarily people that I cared about or wanted to see play something again or see how well they will do this time. And so I don't want to see any more Big Brother. I want them to maybe shelf them for a couple of years and then bring some maybe new seasons of shows, you know. But they're coming back, right? They're probably going to come back.
That makes sense.
I'm so annoying.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I would like to see maybe if they were to do a Big Brother one, I would like to see a team of Devon.
Yeah.
And if we have to
Tiffany.
have Fessy in there, I mean, let's bring in some new players. But I want to see some battle of the shows because I think we could bring in. I think that's the only way that Survivor would a team
stand a chance.
Would be able to drive and stay in this game because they're going to be targeted first. They are looked at as much stronger, much more strategic than say Big Brother. So I would like to
likable.
And I think that they would, likable. They would be way more able to move forward into the game if they were working together, working as their quote unquote tribe and being able to push through the game. I think 4 teams of 6 would be great. I just don't know what the 4th show would be unless it's going to be challenge OGs and challenge new school or something to that effect. And then you can have 2 challenge teams plus Big Brother, but then you're having 12 people working together. So I would like to see something else, maybe miscellaneous. So you can have Ed from the circle and some random people that we like to see, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, Drew. I'm for it. I mean, there's enough good talent that they haven't tapped into. The problem is, and I think that's why I don't like the narrative whenever we say Big Brother has ruined the challenge, because there are good players within the Big Brother universe that just have not played the game yet, and it's who they choose to play the game that hasn't been that entertaining to watch, which I agree with, 100%. And I would love to see it, especially if it means we get Parvati on the challenge. Why not? I reckon that would be pretty exciting.
Oh, Love Island. That's a great one. Love Island. You can get UK and US players because I think there's some US players that could work out here. And I also like a lot more of the UK players. Bring back Theo. And
Theo.
Let's have an island. Let's have an island alliance between Survivor and Love Island. And let's just run through Big Brother and let's people on
What's the
their
update
toes.
on Theo though? Because he had that injury, right? So I believe he's not going to be coming back and playing the game, right? Is that Theo that played?
Yeah.
He had the eye injury, right? Am I
Yeah, with
incorrect?
the champagne cork went into
Yeah.
his eye. I believe that he has the sight back in that eye. I don't know if he's cleared to be able to play. But I
Yeah.
know that he's not wearing like an eye patch or anything like that anymore, and he does have like his eye still. So I'm not sure if
Yeah.
like he's lost sight or if it's all come back, but I know that he's not wearing the patch anymore. So
He's probably more likely to
Yeah.
come back now that Paulie's not there to try and kiss him, so he should be in a good shape if he does make it back to the show.
I heard that he's doing well. I heard that he got cleared before the pandemic happened to come back onto the challenge. Like I think he got approval from 2 doctors, but then the pandemic happened and he also just became a father around that time. So he wanted to be with his family to start with everything. But yeah, that'd be great.
I
If he
never
could come
heard
back.
that. With who?
Yeah.
Like he was dating Kaz for so long, and then they broke up, and then he had a baby with somebody. Wow.
I don't know what to say. Yeah, I just saw that he had a picture on Instagram like a long time ago of him like with the ultrasound and everything. So yeah, maybe we could do parents versus singles as a challenge. Let's do it.
That's fun. I would be into it, kind of. But no, I
Then
think
every-
that
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, no matter what, like I would like to see instead of this trilogy being completed, like it's the trilogy that we never asked for, that we don't want, or not right now, not in succession. So I would love to see an X's at this point. I would love to see a Rivals. And like you're saying, I would deal with the Big Brother Alliance if they weren't part of the majority. I could deal if it's more evenly spread out where other people will have an opportunity. I just can't take them being in power for 6 months. It's just enough has been enough for these last few seasons. Like I just need new energy driving the entertainment bus here. So yes, I want them to go back to the old format where we're seeing like even another Cutthroat or even another Free Agent, like any of the other shows that we did. Like I want to see the number 2 of or something like that, because they had a formula back there that worked and they keep on trying something new that's not been working. So let's just try going back to what worked for maybe 1 season and just see what happens. That'd be ideal.
This is exactly what I was going to say. A whole team having confessionals one after another saying they're doing it for their kids.
For the kids.
Yeah, I would love that. Just like one after the other. CT, Kyle, Amanda, Corey.
Or we just
let's just do it.
We just get a whole team of previous champions of reality shows doing it for their family, after they've already won $500,000 or $1 million before in another game show, but they're still doing it for the family, We need the money.
Exactly.
Actually, I wouldn't mind that, like another invasion of the champions, but where it was just like half champions, half people that like never even made it to the purge or never made a final. Like that'd be kind of fun, depending on.
The only thing I don't want is because I'm rewatching the seasons, and the seasons that were like majority champions or like the Ruins or Gauntlet 3 where it was veterans versus rookies. It just seemed so lopsided, and I just don't want that to happen because I felt like this season was also very lopsided with the vet truce, and they weren't working like as a team to win dailies together, but it just seemed like it was just so lopsided. And I'm doing a full challenge rewatch to kind of do what Rob has done, to do like a list and a tier of like breaking down.
Are you gonna do every season? Like every season?
Every season.
Oh, that's awesome.
Every season. So far, I've watched like 14 challenge seasons, including this season, 37 would be, I also watched Double Agent, so that would be 15 seasons so far this year, since I came up with it in like July. So I'm just powering through as many seasons as I can, and I'm up to like Battle of the Sexes 2, but I've had some sprinkled in here for like doing DM's research, and it's just like, I'm not looking forward to Battle of the Sexes 2 because I just know how lopsided the game is and how it's just not as fun. So I don't necessarily want to do like a Ruins 2 where it's like, oh, people who learn how to win going up against people who haven't won or haven't even seen it like one elimination. Let's that should be fun, right? It's like, no, it doesn't work out that way. Like it's like
Sure,
what's
you're
gonna
right.
happen is exactly what's gonna happen. Is the champs
I
are
just-
just gonna run
I'm
through
just
them.
trying to get Josh and Fessy out like first round. You know what I mean? Like that's all I'm just trying to
Yeah.
to game here. But you're right. You're right. You're right.
Shout out to Below
Ooh,
Deck. It's a
Below
good show.
Deck. Yes, I love
Yeah.
Below
Oh, I should
Deck.
tell you watched it as well.
Of course I do. I'm up to date, babe.
We all three need to do a Below Deck
I would love it.
recap,
Yeah.
and I'll
I
wear
have
my
a friend.
boat uniform.
She I used to work with her in Montreal, and she moved to Australia to work on yachts, and she says that she gets asked all the time to be on Below Deck. I'm like, can you please go on that show so then you can come and chat with me on my channel? Because like she's like, oh, I didn't really know like it was what it was, and so I just like I never said yes because like it gets kind of wild, and I don't know if I want to be on TV. And I'm like, I want you on TV, getting wild. Thank you. So
Yeah. That show is
fingers
messy, but I love it. I love
Yeah.
it so much. There's some casts where I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna check out and I'll listen to it in the background. But there's some seasons where I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like
Yeah.
if I'm on that yacht, I would rather be down below and hearing everybody like yell at the chef.
The
for not
chefs are the most
getting
fun.
ready.
The chefs are the most fun. They are the craziest people, right, to want to do that job in the first place. And every season, I'm always, who's going to be the chef? Like they had that chef, I forgot her name, the Russian chef that was on Below
Yeah.
Deck one season where she was trying to make food and she said she did all this training and she couldn't do anything that was on the photos.
those
That was just
nachos.
such a cluster. Yeah, nachos. Yeah, that was
They're bad
amazing.
nachos. You can't really mess up nachos that badly. And I was looking at them, I was like, wow, that's not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Shout out to Captain Sandy. She's my favorite captain. I like her. She's good. Such a cool leader. Such a cool leader. I reckon the way she leads their team, love it. Rolling up her sleeves, getting involved, making sure that the rooms are ready, showing them how it's done. That's how a leader should be. You should lead by example. Really enjoy watching her. I haven't seen the latest season of that one. Yeah.
I
The,
love
the
Captain
original
Lee,
Captain is great.
though.
Captain Lee is great, but
Lee.
Captain Lee's a bit grumpy sometimes. Come on,
No, but like
who
that's
would you
his
who would you want to work
thing.
for? Would you want to work for Captain Lee or for Captain Sandy?
Yes.
I'm team Captain Sandy here.
Lee.
Chat,
Yeah,
let us know.
Captain
Who,
Lee.
Obviously. Well, like,
Ah.
I mean, I just like he's so easy to take care of. You know what I mean? I've worked in hospitality before, and like I get his prototype. Like I know what makes him happy, and like that would be I would get along with him really well because like I would just know what he would want and be able to execute that. So I think that we'd have a better
Yeah.
working relationship. And like he's one of those people that like if I could make him laugh or make him have a good time or do something silly, like I don't know, he's just so Captain Lee.
But would he let you take control of the ship? Would he let you drive the ship out of the dock?
As a girl, I think he would. Yes, I think he would actually.
I haven't seen Lee do that yet. Sandy's like, you take control, you do it, you get out of the dock here, No, but in all reality, I like all of them, but I do like Sandy's leadership style, so that's probably my hot take for the
Except
episode.
I didn't
One of many.
Well, maybe you didn't see the season, but did you see the season where Hannah's last season?
Yeah.
Yes,
See,
I did
I
see
didn't
it. Yeah.
I didn't personally like how that was handled. Now I know that there's all these
Mm.
rules of like for being on water and whatnot, but I just thought she was being kind of nasty to Hannah in a way that like I didn't respect. And like I can't stand Malia, so that could also be like why I was
I don't
kind
like
of
her,
frustrated
yeah.
by it because I was like she was siding with Malia in a way that like I just didn't think she was being objective with how she handled it. I get that she had to do what she had to do as a captain, and these are hard decisions that you
Yeah.
had to make. But like the kind of weird tattling that came through Malia, I wish that she had a little bit more discernment in how she handled that situation. I wasn't that was the moment where I came less of a fan of Captain Sandy. But before that, I was pretty plussed about her.
You see, for me, I never really liked Hannah that much. I always thought she was a bit of an interesting character, and it's interesting because you get Bugsy coming back on that specific season, which I was more of a Bugsy fan. Go Team South Africa all the way. So that's probably where that started. So I was like, yeah, get rid of Hannah, bring in the South African, to take over. It's all good.
I like Hannah over Bugsy, but that's fine. Bugsy's okay
Fair
though.
enough.
I like Bugsy more than Malia, so.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to start a Bravo recap of
What other
every
Bravo
single
shows
thing.
do you watch, Drew?
I mean, name them and I watch them. Basically, I watch
Stop.
pretty much all
I know you watch
the Real
Vanderpump.
Housewives.
which is
Vanderpump,
amazing.
Below Deck.
Are you watching Winter House? Say yes.
I need to.
But you've
I
watched
also
all of
watch.
Summer House?
I don't watch Summer House, but I want to watch Winter House. But I
Well,
also
just
watch
watch
Million
all
Dollar
of this.
Listings. I watch all that.
Watch all of the Summer House because it's like really, it's very messy. It's exactly okay. So there's a crossover episode from Vanderpump Rules to Summer House like 6 years ago. And so if you want to get into Summer House, watch like the first season episode, and like Stassi's on there, Katie's on there, and they all go to the Hamptons for the summer, like a couple of nights in the summer. And that's how Summer House started. So if you want to get like into Summer House, and then it's all the same character or half the characters from Summer House that are on Winter House. Now they're also bringing in a few people from Southern Charm. So see, Keanu knows Summer House.
I've definitely seen
messy.
some of Southern Charm. I will say that.
I've seen some of Southern Charm. I need to go back and watch the other like 4 seasons, but I've seen like 2 seasons.
Yeah. Real quick before we wrap up, have you been keeping up with Vanderpump? Just real quick.
Yes, of course.
It's pretty boring, right? It's
yes, it is.
And
there's been more because all their stars are gone.
Yeah, there's been more pickleball this season that I've watched than I've ever even heard of the word pickleball outside of this show. Like I've just seen so many matches, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. Don't need to see this.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what the problem is that unfortunately, because of the past history of some of their cast mates, were pretty unsavory at a time where, you know, Bravo was coming and laying down the law. And so Stassi was removed from the show. I didn't like, what's his name? Jax, but like, you know, he did bring some weird drama to the show. I didn't know you hated him too much.
But like, the thing he wasn't my favorite.
I definitely wasn't my favorite, but it made me, now I hate Tom Sandoval because like I don't have Jax there to hate more. And so now I'm like, I can't even stand 100%. You, Tom. Like you need to be gone. And so now they don't have all these other characters that like I would be yelling at the screen about so that I would like Tom Sandoval or both the Toms. And so yeah, I just can't carry the show. And obviously, I'm still going to watch. I love the intro video. I think it's so good, and the song's so good. And I love Lisa still, but yeah it's pretty boring. Boring McBorisville.
I'll be honest. You're gonna have. I'm gonna play Tom Sandoval this whole live when we go to Schwartz and Sandy's for a drink. AKA one of the worst named restaurants I've ever heard. My gosh.
Well, especially, I don't know if I probably don't have this, but in Canada, we have a smoked meat franchise that's like Montreal history called Schwartz's. So whenever I hear Schwartz's, I think of a smoked meat sandwich on rye with grainy mustard and a pickle. So I really think it's a deli when I hear like Schwartz and Sandy's. I'm like, oh, oh, Schwartz deli sandwiches with his like, you know, his wife. It's Sandy. So it's not good.
I will say that during the aftermath, I'm so sorry, Chris, but I know you probably are like so bored hearing us talk about.
Hey, it's Latin to me, mate. But I'm listening.
Just one more thing. I was so frustrated when during Watch What Happens Live, somebody brought up that it should have been called Once Upon a Tom, which I was like, that is the best name. They're both Tom. Like they're both Tom. Like that should have been it. You're done. Like
a little bit long, I think.
I think it's perfect. I don't know what they're going for with that restaurant, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't have anybody to talk to Vanderpump Rules about, and it's just so boring. I wanted to vent about it. Maybe we need to have a vent sesh on Vanderpump.
I definitely do.
Vanderpump or whatever.
Vanderpump. I could do a Vanderpump. Yeah, anytime you want, I could go in on a rant about Vanderpump. Absolutely.
I just want to say, I just bow down to you guys for the amount of time that you have to actually get through all of these shows. Because I'm like, I could hang in the conversation up to a certain point, but when you went Vanderpump, I was like, what's that?
I'm like, now though,
it sounds like something from Nelly T's workout video, you know, when he's doing it, you know, getting that Vanderpump on.
I'm doing like a full binge right now, all day today, doing Selling Sunset next season. I think it's season 4. That's been pretty great. Did you watch any of those?
No, I don't watch Selling Sunset. I've been very gingerly going through the Netflix because I I don't like a lot of their reality TV. I think they
True.
don't handle it very well. It's the cream of the crop for trash. I will say, like, Too Hot to Handle was like, wow, I'm really watching this right now. I can't even finish The Circle. I'm one episode away from the finals, and I don't want to watch the final episode because I feel like I know what's going to happen. Like,
Ooh, wait, what do you think is going
Don't
to
tell me.
happen?
Don't tell me. Don't. No, no.
Oh,
I'm not
what do you
even as
think?
close. I'm not as close
Oh
as
my
Drew.
gosh.
So don't spoil
Guys,
it for
this is
me.
like a
boys.
year ago.
yeah, well, there's
I
a
need to
person
catch
that I
up.
want to win, and then all of a sudden things get shaken up, and I'm like, all right, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch the next one because I just don't think I want to see how it ends because I just feel like I already know and I don't want to know. Like, I just really don't. Like, it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to. I will say. So it is what it is. I think we got to a point. I wanted to hit like 230 at the most, but we got to 232 because we are just that cool.
Yay.
I wanted to turn it over to both of you to shout out your channel names. I know it's like super late, but I just want to give both of you a shout out. If you liked our dynamic here, we are much more focused on the challenge review and recaps on Friday nights at 8 when we talk about that episode, and also on Challenge 37 and All Stars 2. So we do both in one sitting, and it's really fun. We try to hit 120. We normally hit just under 2 hours because we love talking about it and just having a fun time. Now I'll turn it over to Chantel. Shout out your channel. Where can everyone find you if they want to see more of you and what you have coming up?
Sure. So I kind of touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but that was so long ago that I might as well remind you guys to follow me, subscribe to Reality Realness with 3 S's. Over there, I started this channel. I started a couple of years ago, but I really started it when 2020 happened and started more focuses on like different shows like Big Brother, Survivor. So I try to do all the big shows. Sometimes I'll do Drag Race. I didn't do Drag Race this time around. It really depends on kind of like who I have in my circle that wants to cover a show with me. So right now I'm covering The Bachelorette. We're kind of getting to the end of the season. We're at the hometown dates. Do that on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, I also go live pretty much after the episode for the challenge. On Tuesdays, you can find me with Sarah from Nerdtainment doing a ranking of the Survivor cast. I do my own Survivor recap on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Fridays, I share with you guys. And I feel like there's like one more show that I'm covering that I just don't remember right now. But just find me, Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm on all platforms with that name.
Yeah, so I'm on Reality Pop, as the name says. We're on YouTube as well. We're probably the new kids on the block when it comes to podcasting, doing Survivor videos and analysis as well. But we do focus on reality TV as a whole. So currently, I have got Drew and Chantel with me on the Challenge Insiders every Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about the show each week. We do want to do some fun off-season content at some point, similar to this, where we have some wider topics about the challenge when we actually get an off season, if we do get it, because I know it's pretty much going to be Challenge All Stars 2, Challenge All Stars 3, and then probably Challenge 38, and then 4 straight afterwards. So we might just be podcasting for the whole year without stopping, the way that they're doing these filmings at the moment for the show. But we have got also on our channel a lot of interviews with former Survivor players already. That's there for you to go and enjoy. That's for international Survivor and also for the US Survivor. And currently, Adam Jumba and Gideon McManus, they are the Survivor buffs, and they do the recap for Survivor 41 every week. And then when the international season starts again, you'll be seeing me do the Survivor worldwide coverage for Australian Survivor and Survivor South Africa, which is both now available on Paramount Plus. So if you've got access to that, go and check it out. It's definitely worth getting into. Great casting and less game-breaking twists that take away from just good gameplay on those shows. So really worth a watch if you liked that earlier sort of, I guess, Survivor content before we went into the 40s or the late 30s, where Jeff just started going ham with all these twists.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh. Let's not bring in Hourglass anywhere close to this cast
No.
anywhere soon.
Do you know what I'm thinking? Sorry, I just had like a moment. I'm like, because on Reality Pop, I've done at least one of those Survivor trivia things. I'm wondering if we should do some sort of competition, gauntlet, some sort of thing with all the people that do podcasts about the challenge. And so maybe it could be like some challenge trivia or whatnot, but like have it kind of be battle of the challenge reality TV networks. So there's like,
let me just
like
give Tori a call.
Meltdown. No,
I'll get-
no. I mean, if they would show up, it would give us some clout. So we know that we know she's a clout chaser. We might as well chase some clout there. But I think it could be kind of fun to get like Brian and Allie that we were talking about from Rob as a Podcast, and I can't remember her name, but from My Messy Meltdown, I think it is. She she always has some people on there, and there's just definitely a bunch of different challenge podcasters that I think have a lot of knowledge, and I think it would be kind of fun to like see battle of the networks.
Yeah,
I would love that. I mean, we're getting a lot of good feedback from everybody in the chat. I would love to do more of these. I mean, again, if you want to watch us more, we're on every Friday at 8 p.m. on Reality Pop talking about the challenge directly. But I'm thinking that maybe in the future we can come back together and just have like a free flowing conversation of all reality, because I just had so much fun. Like, no lie, 2 hours and 37 minutes have flown by. Like, I kept on looking at the time through different topics, and I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Like, this is incredible. But thank you both for stopping by. I had a great time. I always have fun talking to both of you, but tonight was a lot of fun. I thank you for joining me in this appreciation for 20K, and I'm happy that we got to chat extra this week. So I thank you both. Thank you for everybody that joined us on the live, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, guys.